Next Sunday, see Dateline Disneyland on ABC Television Network.
That American Bandstand man, Dick Clark, helps Patti Page introduce her two newest recordings. It's musical fun next over ABC Television Network.
This is an ABC color presentation. This is a...
Hello, I'm June Lockhart. Things you aren't using can be given new life when you give them to the Salvation Army. And the refurbishing of your items can provide work therapy to help men and women recover from complex problems. So please help. Call for the Red Shield truck. You can even take a tax deduction.
Watch Richard Rose. He's proving that epilepsy can be overcome today. Thanks to effective treatment, many people with epilepsy, like Richard, are achieving goals you never thought possible. Epilepsy, it's not what you think. Ask the people who know. Write Epilepsy Foundation of America, Washington, D.C., 20013.
WABC-TV, New York.
I don't think that there is anything more difficult or more disheartening that I have to do as a rabbi than walk into a funeral chapel. I realize that no matter what prayers I read or what words I use, none will help to remove or in any way mitigate the pain that fills the hearts of the family. But I have learned, not just as a rabbi, but also as a child that has lost a parent, that you cannot have life without death, just as you cannot have sunshine without clouds or dawn without dusk. There is a most meaningful story that is told of two children playing in a garden. All of a sudden, both of them run into the house. One child turns to her mother and says, "Mother, the garden is such an ugly place to be in." "Why do you say that?" asked the mother. "Because wherever I turn, I see roses, but each rose is surrounded by thorns that hurt me." The other says, "Mother, the garden is a beautiful place to be in." "Why do you say that?" Child answers, "Wherever I turn, I see thorns, but each thorn is surrounded by roses." Let us remember that while some people only see thorns, others see roses. Thus, if today we cry, yesterday we most likely smiled with our beloved. If today we are impoverished, yesterday we were enriched. And if today we feel thorns, then yesterday we beheld roses.
This is station WABC-TV New York, Channel 7, key station in the ABC Television Network. WABC-TV studios are located at the ABC Television Center, 7 Lincoln Square, New York. Programs are transmitted from the top of the World Trade Center in Manhattan with a frequency of 174 to 180 megahertz. WABC-TV operates on Channel 7 by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. Now speaking for the entire staff, this is Wally Parker wishing you a pleasant good night and inviting you to join us this morning at 6:25 for more outstanding entertainment on Channel 7. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Says a home run at a Yankees game helped her get a heart transplant. We're going to have those stories tonight after Oprah on Eyewitness News at 5. And you guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
You as well. Thank you so much, Charday. And we are glad to have you on this historic day, at this historic moment. We've been talking for months about the digital transition. Now it is finally happening.
We are on the brink. Analog. At 12:30, we will officially make the switch to digital TV. Now to the big moment. Bill?
Not just one of our control rooms, the place where we're going to push the switch, and you're going to see that in less than 2 minutes. This really is a historic moment, Ken and Lori, as the hourglass on analog runs out. You know, most people in the tri-state, the overwhelming majority, already have digital, but there was always a choice in the matter. That choice is no more as of 12:30. It is really a big change in the way we communicate. It's been more than 80 years since the invention of television, and really, few things have changed our lives more. In the first years of commercial broadcasting, TV was limited to just a few live programs and newsreels, a few hours a day. Color changed the landscape dramatically, and then cable turned TV on its ear. Some of us remember when television stations used to sign off in the wee hours of the morning. That doesn't happen anymore. And even though analog TV is going away and the new digital Channel 7 is taking its place, Channel 7 and Eyewitness News will still be here, being part of your life for all the future history yet to come. Well, we are getting ready. I'm going to turn my back a little bit to you. We have about 35 seconds until this happens. Now, for those of you who already have digital, who have cable, who have Fios, who have a satellite, you're not going to see anything. We are going to be here the same as we always have. For those of you who have analog, in about 25 seconds, 20 seconds or so, your signal will go off. If you have a converter box, you're going to need to reboot that converter box. We've been talking to you a lot about that. We want no viewer left behind. This is a change in the way we communicate, and in about 10 seconds, the old analog way that has ushered in television for the last 60 to 70 years will be no more. We're going to count down to 4, 3. Bill Beam is going to push the button over here. 2, 1. Bill, push the button.
Digital 7 should be coming on.
Digital 7 should be coming on. Now, if you have digital television already, nothing's changed. You've just seen our control room. Our digital era has now begun. Congratulations. We should be singing Auld Lang Syne. Where's the balloons and the ball drop? I feel like Ryan Seacrest here. We have, if you have a converter box,
Yep, it's on.
we hope you rescan it, because right now you will not be seeing anything. If you're at work watching this, if you're at someone else's house watching this, and you have a converter box at home, when you get home, make sure that you scan, rescan, and reboot your digital converter box, because that's the only way. Because we've done this signal switch, I'm not going to do all the PhD stuff to explain why you need to do this, but trust me, you need to reboot your converter box so you'll be able to see us and all your favorite Channel 7 programs and ABC and Eyewitness News beginning at 5 o'clock today. This is an historic day, Ken and Lori. We are now 1 minute and 6 seconds into the total digital era. Analog is so pre-12:30, and we say goodbye to that. So I felt a tingle at 12:30. I hope you all did too.
Absolutely.
We are still the same Channel 7, and we thank all of you for being here for all these many decades. And we hold hands and march together into this new digital era, and who knows what life has to hold for us.
Feel kind of hip, don't you? Now?
I feel so cool right now, yeah.
You look so purely high def. Thank you, Bill. All right, sir. And of course, it is an exciting time. We're going to be with you every step of the way.
And if you have friends and neighbors, family members who are having problems with the transition, you'll want to pass the information along. Our phones will be here, staffed today and all over the weekend to ensure the viewers can keep watching. The number you want to call, 212-456-7000. That's 212-456-7000. Or you can call the FCC as well. Their hotline, you can go to our website. Thank you for being with us.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Rising out of the desert north of Las Vegas is Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and the skies are a clear blue over the speedway. But for Dario Franchitti and Will Power, a storm cloud is brewing, and for one of these two title contenders, lightning is about to strike. Ah, yes, Las Vegas. What a perfect place to cap off an 18-race season for the IZOD IndyCar Championship. These drivers all week have been taking part of charity gambling events out in front of the Bellagio, and of course, party, and parties. But now the parties are over, and it's time to get down to business. After 17 races, it is coming down to 2 men for the IndyCar World Series Championship event here in Las Vegas. Dario Franchitti leads by 18 points. He could make history today, becoming the third man to win 3 championships in a row. Will Power was on the cusp of a championship last year. He's 18 points behind this year. And Dan Weldon, back at Indianapolis, stunned everybody, winning on the final corner. And Danica Patrick, well, she will be in her final scheduled race here in the IZOD IndyCar Series. So as you look down from high above, we welcome you to Las Vegas Motor Speedway as we get ready for the final stop of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series. And we welcome you to Honda Race Day here. And that's the trophy that those 2 title contenders are going after, Will Power and Dario Franchitti. Of course, these guys have been going after each other for quite a while, all season long to be exact. In fact, they've tallied a total of 10 victories between the 2 of them in the 17 prior races. And if you're a Will Power fan, you'd say, hey, if I won 6 races, I should be winning the championship, right? Well, as you can see, he's not. He's trailing by 18. And Will tell you himself, when they've been bad, they've been really bad. And Franchitti took over the points lead just 2 weeks ago back at Kentucky. So as we come topside, along with former Indy 500 winner Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear, guys, this is the 6th year in a row this championship's coming down to the final race.
And it's incredible. When you think about it, both these teams should have won probably a couple of races ago, but mistakes both by the driver on the track and the crew in the pit lane have come down to this one last race. And Eddie, with 34 cars, you know, as a driver, when you get into a car, you want to be programmed. I don't think there's any programming going on here because we don't know what's going to happen.
And what an incredible grid we have. We have Tony Kanaan on pole. We have Dario Franchitti, Will Power right in the middle of the grid trying to win a championship. And we have Dan Weldon trying to get $5 million from the last place on the grid.
Well, and let's get caught up with the drivers that are contending for that championship. And Jamie Little is with the first.
All right, we're back here in the Penske Hauler, just getting ready to suit up for a big day for Will Power. And once again, all eyes are on you as you look for your first championship against Dario Franchitti once again. So, Will, you're trailing him. What would you say were the moments this year that got you in this point situation?
Well, all 6 wins most definitely helped. You know, we've had some bad days. I think that's what's put us in a situation where we're not leading, is the bad results have been so bad with DNFs and so on. But, you know, we clawed back from a 64-point deficit to get to this point. So, you know, we've worked hard. It's been a great season, no matter what the outcome is. And, you know, I think that we've put a lot into this race, a lot into the last 2 races. Obviously, Kentucky was not the result we wanted, but that's racing. And we'll do what we can today.
Your rivalry with Dario Franchitti has hit an all-time high this year. What is it about him that fuels your fire?
It's, you know, it all started at Toronto when we had the incident, and, you know, went from there. It's just it's a rivalry. It's a guy that stops you from winning championships. He's a guy, you know, if he's not there, we'd be winning championships. So it's good. It's great for the series. It's tough competition, and you know, it's hard to be good friends with someone that you fight so hard with. And not that we're bad friends, but we're not really friends off the track. So I've enjoyed it, actually. I enjoy racing with Dario. I have a lot of respect for the guy.
Do you leave today as the champion?
If we do everything we can, you know, and we win the race, that's all we can do, and whatever else happens is out of our control, but we know that we've done everything, and if that's the championship, that's great. If not, that's racing.
Thank you, Will. And coming up later, what's in a name? Will Power, the coolest name in racing. We'll explain that. But now let's go over to Vince Welch, who's with the championship leader.
Opportunity, a rare opportunity behind the scenes with Dario Franchitti going for his 3rd straight IndyCar Series championship, 4th overall. Do you get nervous before a race? I mean, championship race or any race?
I think any race, there's still those little butterflies, which is part of the thrill, really. You know, you want to do well. And especially today, there's a lot of unknowns. First time here at Vegas, we're not sure how the race is going to play out. Starting a little bit further back, so you know, probably no more than usual nerves. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns today.
Unknowns in the fact that you're working without your strategist, who normally is on the box for you, Barry Wanzer, his son Michael, going through a tough battle with cancer, just 6 years old. How's that impacted you personally?
Well, we definitely miss Barry, absolutely. But Barry's doing a much more important job right now. He's looking after Michael, Robert, Robert and Laurie, his family, and you know, Ironman Mike is a hell of a fighter, and we're thinking about you, Michael, Robert, Laurie, Barry. We're missing you guys today. They're part of our family, you know, part of the Target team, part of the Target family, and you know, Simmons is a great engineer, but he ain't no Barry Wanzer on the radio. So you know, we're going to do our absolute best today. Everybody on the Target team knows their jobs, and we'll see how it goes.
Speaking of family, you've got some of your best buddies from your childhood here. How's that been this weekend?
I haven't seen much of them actually. A lot of my friends from Scotland, they come to the 500 every year. They come to the championship finals. Their wives are very understanding, so thank you for letting the boys over here. They haven't been arrested yet. Still got a couple of days to go, which is possible, but no, it's great. The support they give me is great. Hopefully bring a bit of luck today, and we can have some celebration tonight.
Yeah, that'd be fun for them and you, I know. Dario Franchitti, we'll learn more about how he prepares for the big race a little bit later in the show.
All right, thank you, Vince. And as you see, there's Dan Weldon being introduced to the crowd. He's got a tough task ahead of him. He's going to start dead last in this field, but if he wins the race, he has a chance at winning $5 million. And of course, it all started back at Indy in May.
The Indianapolis 500, the most iconic race in the history of sports. And today marks the centennial, 100 years of heroes, tradition, and glory. Make no mistake, there is nothing ordinary about this race. This is the gold standard, a symbol for greatness that plays out on a stage like no other.
They look absolutely spectacular for the 100th year. And it is now Tagliani out in front of turn 2. This is the feel-good story of the month.
Trouble. The yellow is out. Heartbreak for Tags. For that man right there, Sam Schmidt.
New leader on the track now is Danica Patrick. She is taking the lead. Hang in there, Danica. Hang in there.
The fuel strategy could come into play if we have another yellow. It's getting to that point where it's very hard to figure out.
Danica Patrick is about 4 to 5 laps shy on fuel.
J.R. Hildebrand is the leader, trying to do the unthinkable, winning his first Indianapolis 500. All around the world, our servicemen and women on this Memorial Day are pulling for J.R. Hildebrand in that National Guard entry.
The white flag is in hand.
He hits the wall. He hits the wall coming out of 4. Will he have enough to cross the yard of bricks?
Sam Weldon is going to win the race. While he is celebrating, J.R. Hildebrand is aching.
What a tremendous finish.
Well, for Dan Weldon, that was a $2.5 million payday at Indy. Today, he's racing for twice as much, $5 million, to be split between Dan and a fan by the name of Ann Babenko, who won the contest for GoDaddy. But here's the question. You have to come from the back of the pack. Is it twice as much pressure, and do you have the car to do it?
You know, honestly, I always put a lot of pressure on myself anyway, and there's a lot of history and tradition to win the Indianapolis 500. This is slightly different. It's a unique opportunity that Randy Bernard, the IndyCar Series, GoDaddy, and Verizon have given me. And, you know, we've had a tough weekend so far, but, you know, I think the Bowers and Wilkins at Magnolia, William Rast, Curb and Big Machine Records car will, you know, definitely come to the front. We've, like I say, they've worked tirelessly yesterday to literally change everything. So there's not the problem of having slow car syndrome. And, you know, I've been excited by this event just with the build-up, but I can't wait for the race. And in answer to your question, I think there's pressure all the time, especially when you want to win as bad as I do.
Now think about this. It's Vegas. He's got a roulette wheel painted on his helmet. He's ready to roll the dice. Marty?
All right, thank you, Rick. And Thursday night, the drivers went downtown on the strip. There was a team photo in front of the Bellagio Fountains. But this was the cool part. Yeah, they actually cordoned off about 6 blocks on the Las Vegas Strip, and they were driving the cars down there. The drivers said they had a blast, and thousands turned out. Great event. Well, still to come. We'll have more on Danica Patrick's final scheduled race in the IZOD IndyCar Series, and more also with Will and Dario Franchitti as we're in Las Vegas for the IZOD IndyCar World Championship.
Because you were born this way, baby.
Well, what you see today is a product of where I've been, and that's in IndyCar for 7 years, and the Indy 500, and all of the articles written about me. That's what I am today. My brand owes it to IndyCar and everything that's happened to put me in the place that I am, and that's allowed me opportunities beyond that. When I was a kid, I remember watching the Indy 500 with my dad and my mom.
The one thing missing from this room, though, is the Indianapolis 500 trophy. That's my goal.
And I wanted to win the Indy 500. It's the greatest race in the world. My best memory in IndyCar, the first Indy 500. There was just so much surrounding it. There was so much excitement, such an underdog feeling, and such great things that happened during it.
Danica Patrick leads the Indianapolis 500.
Taking the lead and just really feeling like I belonged there.
Mark this date, May 29th, 2005, as you witness a history-making performance.
I'll never forget that. I am determined, I am focused, and if I get mad, it's for a reason.
Whoa! And Danica.
I'm in the wall.
She was very frustrated.
I'm so sorry. It's locked up on the brakes.
So Danica is out of the race.
Why couldn't I go straight?
It's not my fault. This car is not good. Every time I come here, it's more and more depressing when I don't win the race.
Boys, move over. The lady is coming through. Danica Patrick wins at Twin Ring Motegi.
It was almost like, is this really happening?
I feel like I was crying, but it's a long time coming. Finally.
I never thought it'd be so hard to win more than one race. There were great moments. I wish there was more of them, but it made me who I am today. I've done some great things and obviously won and ran up front. I didn't run up front every single weekend. There's not a lot to make me regret or think differently. Ask me in a few years and maybe I'll have a different answer. I believe it will be hard for people to forget that I'm an IndyCar driver or came from IndyCar, but I think you're kind of remembered for what you did at the end, what people last remember you for. The reason why I'm moving to NASCAR is because I loved racing those cars. What you think your life is going to be isn't always what it's going to be. And you grow up and you have different wants and needs and you feel comfortable in different places. And my new wants and needs take me to NASCAR right now.
From an unknown to one of the most recognized names in sports, and it all started back in March of 2005 with her first career start.
And Marty, we remember her first Indianapolis 500, the first woman to lead the 500 in May of 2005.
From there, April 19th, first woman to win an IndyCar race, of course, at Twin Ring Motegi. And October 16th, 116th and final potential appearance in the IndyCar Series. Let's talk to Danica Patrick, who's left an indelible print on this series. Rick?
Well, for Danica Patrick, it's all come down to one race. But let's talk about the emotions. I mean, this is potentially your final IndyCar race. What are your thoughts as you start to get into that car?
Let's go make the most of it. You know, I want to do well in my last race more than any other, and I feel like there's an opportunity here. Everybody's really close. It's going to be a crazy race, but you know, I'm not out here to make friends today. It doesn't matter anymore, does it?
Is there a sadness?
I've really thought of this weekend as being exciting. I'm excited. You know, I almost feel bad saying it. I feel because I'm at an IndyCar race and it's the last one. But if I wasn't excited, then I didn't make the right decision, and I am. And I'm going to miss a lot of people, and you know, I'm sure I'm going to watch some of the races down the road and think, you know, it'd be fun to be there. But I'm ready for the next phase, and I just appreciate all the support I've got over here and from all the fans especially. And let's keep it going.
Danica's qualified in the top 10, and so far she's had the fastest lap on this track this weekend. This could be the day.
And so far, no better than a 50-50 shot at next year's Indy 500. Other victory lane performances. How about the first woman owner to get a win? That's 2 weeks ago. There's Sarah Fisher. She was also the first woman pole sitter ever in the series history. Ed Carpenter turned his trick as he got his first win. Other winners this year included Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Marco Andretti picked up his second career win at Iowa, and of course Dan Weldon at the Indianapolis 500, his second 500 crown. And there's Mike Conway, who surprised everybody at Long Beach. So there is the trophy that Dario and Will are chasing as it comes up onto the stage here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll have more here in just a moment.
James Hinchcliffe here. We're at the Aria Resort here in Las Vegas, and we find ourselves outside the theater of the Viva Elvis by Cirque du Soleil show. This show looks unbelievable. Think there's any chance I could get involved somehow? What do you do? I'm only really good at one thing. I hear Oriole Survey and my teammates in the building. I think he's going to stop by and check it out, too.
I've never seen that in Barcelona. Think you can teach me?
Oh, you bet. We'll hook you up. Ready? Spin. Cow attitude. That's good. Good. Oh, yeah.
Is that Elvis Cadillac?
The Elvis Cadillac.
I think I'd rather do that. Viva Las Vegas!
Guys always looking for a great ride. That Cadillac with the Longhorn looked pretty good. There is Will Power, currently second in the points championship, making the tour around the mile-and-a-half oval here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And, of course, he drives for one of the most legendary owners ever in sports, as Roger Penske had his first IndyCar start with Mark Donohue back in '68.
Donohue, a very famous name, and Mark Donohue won the Indianapolis 500 back in 1972 for Penske.
First championship came in 1977. The gas man at the wheel, Tom Sneva.
And a driver that won many races for Mr. Penske, Rick Mears. 1991 was his first, 4 wins, though, in total.
3 more for Helio Castroneves, his last coming in 2009. He's got 12 titles. Does Roger Penske, can he get number 13 from the man with the name that no one can forget?
Will Power, the greatest name in racing.
At what point do we stop bringing up the name?
Everyone asks me about it, you know, and my name's William, and my mother still calls me that.
I remember the first time that I ever heard the name, I thought it was a joke. He was in Champ Car, and I said to myself, so now they've resorted to hiring these guys with these names, right?
Exactly when do we stop with the play on words?
How much willpower do I have? That's a tough question. I don't know. I guess I gave up smoking once.
You simply cannot beat power. Will Power wins.
When will it all get old for us? Because for Will Power, it pretty much already is.
The writers have written all the will to win and power on with Will and all the headlines you can write about it, so you're making a big deal of my name.
But in the end, it's Will Power that keeps resuscitating the talk of willpower. Every stage of his career should have been a dead end. In 2008, Champ Car folded. In 2009, his Penske ride was only part-time. And that summer, he suffered a broken back during practice at Infineon Raceway. But each time, Power has persevered.
I'm not sure how much the name plays into that, but I'm pretty driven. I enjoy winning and I enjoy competition. I'm constantly searching for the next thing. What's now? You know, how can I improve here in every single way?
That includes power displays at the gym, 6 times a week, often twice daily, and the ability to quickly move on from heartbreak.
My goodness, can you believe it? Will Power is going to lose the championship here tonight.
I definitely didn't sit there and go, oh man, we just lost the championship. You know, it was like, okay, why did we lose the championship?
This August at New Hampshire, he unleashed history's most powerful display of the double Angry Birds.
He had been screaming on the radio about there's no way that we can go back to racing. It's too wet.
I spun around and I went backwards in the wall and I had my head there and I hit my head again. You know, I just bloody had a concussion at Iowa and that really annoyed me that they put me in a position to get hurt, and I did.
Oh, is he furious and makes a gesture to the folks in timing and scoring.
I didn't know the camera was on me. It's not funny. Yeah, I did that. Just a split-second thing out of just frustration.
In the weeks since New Hampshire, he has coolly driven his way into Dario Franchitti's rearview mirror. And for the second straight year, he comes to the season finale with a chance to become a champion.
We go to Vegas and we win. You know, Dario has a bad day, we win the championship. And, you know, that's really all you can think, is let's just do everything we can to win this race. The rest is out of our control.
More accurately, it's out of his power, just like the usage of his name.
There's nothing more to say, really. I mean, my name is Will Power. It's not a stage name or anything. That's my name. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
Well, how would you like to be able to eavesdrop on that conversation? Roger Penske and Chip Ganassi, the 2 owners of the 2 championship contenders. More to come from Las Vegas. Dario Franchitti down on pit lane. That's his father, George, standing right behind him there, trying to make history and win his 3rd straight championship. For his team owner, Chip Ganassi, well, an interesting road. He was a co-owner with Patrick Racing. They won the '89 500 with Emerson Fittipaldi. Eddie?
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, that is you. 1990 was the year. I didn't know you were that old. Scott?
The first win in the series championship along with Jimmy Vasser driving, that was in 1996.
First 500 win as a sole owner came with Scott Dixon driving back in 2008. And his first owner in history to win the Daytona 500 and the Indianapolis 500 in the same year. Now his driver, who can win the championship today, is very meticulous. You want to get an idea just how much? Here's what we mean.
Dario Franchitti is the winner. He's going to win this one handily. It is Dario Franchitti by 5/100ths of a second.
To fully appreciate all that Dario Franchitti has accomplished, look past the podium celebrations, the images of joy, and instead peek into a desk drawer. That's where you'll find Dario's notes.
The note-taking came about, I think I was in Australia, and I just wanted to clear my head about the track. I wasn't clear on where I could gain or lose time, so I just made some notes on each corner.
Scribbles of observation and inspiration. A jigsaw puzzle of papers, of a life written note by note.
I'll take them with me to any race, you know, depending on the style of track. I'll take the notes from like a street course or a road course or 1.5 mile oval, short oval, or when I come to Indy. I'll take the notes with me, and sometimes I'll be sitting in the bus at night and I'll just grab the first piece of paper that comes to hand and I'll make some notes. And I hate to admit it, but I'll wake up in the middle of the night and have to write it down, so I keep a notepad next to the bed now. I need to get a life at some point, but I love this life.
Even the moments that most would label as failure, Franchitti sees as opportunities for growth.
Oh, man, that's a hard lick right there. Dario Franchitti has had contact debris off of one car. There's the carcass of what's left.
It gave me a big reality check. I think what it really did is it showed me that I love driving Indy cars. The fact that I went away, I realized how much I missed it. It was a big change, you know, from 2007, the high, to the low of 2008, back to the high of 2009. It was quite a swing.
Over the last 2 seasons, his notes have increasingly centered around one rival. 1 year ago, Franchitti caught Will Power from behind to win the title.
The championship for 2010 goes to Dario Franchitti, and he wins the Izod IndyCar Series championship by 5 points over Will Power.
This year, it's Power who has done the hunting. Only these notes feel more like bulletin board material.
Pretty dirty move. Man, that guy. Really disappointed in Dario. I always race him clean, and he always races me dirty.
Will's done a very good job at painting himself as the wounded party this year. You know, he's actually been a little bit of a drama queen on occasion, but he's also bloody quick.
After Franchitti took the overall points lead at Kentucky 2 weeks ago, a friend passed along another note. It was a quote from Power, writing off Dario's historic run to luck.
I think to win one race, you could be lucky, but to win whatever 30 races and 3 championships and 2 500s, if he thinks it's luck, that's good. That gives me a built-in advantage over him.
No matter what happens today, championship or heartbreak, one fact remains certain. Dario will make it noteworthy.
Racing's a game of details, you know. In order to be successful, it's about getting all the tiny, small things right, and that includes a driver.
And there is the meticulous note-taker with his owner, Chip Ganassi, as they are getting ready for the opening ceremonies, as we are as well. Here's this championship scenario. If Franchitti finishes first, second, or third, doesn't matter what Will does. Dario wins. If Franchitti finishes 4th through 7th, Power must win the race to win the championship. If Power finishes worse than 7th, Franchitti wins no matter what. Stay with us. More with this after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Championship trophy of the Izod IndyCar World Championship that will be decided today. Our telecast presented by Sunoco, and the 2 contenders getting ready to strap in along with 32 other drivers. Dan Weldon will start at the back of this 34-car field. A lot of pressure. $5 million also riding on the line if he can get to the front. No one's ever won from further back than 28 in an IndyCar race. Danica Patrick, could this be her final race? As we said, Chances of next year's Indy 500 at no better than 50-50 at this point. Will Power, he's 18 points behind. Look at the look on his face. He knows what he has to do. Can he get the job done? He has not had as much success on the ovals as he has had on the road courses. And Dario Franchitti will start right alongside of him in row number 9. His main task is just keep Will Power in sight. If he does that, he wins his 3rd straight championship and 4th of his career. Scott?
Well, the simple thing for both these drivers we know is win, but don't forget, many more starts for Dario Franchitti. 126 oval starts, only 28 for Will Power.
I think today's going to come about who you have around you. You have to have a dancing partner. You have to be able to draft with somebody. And if it happens to be your teammate, it's an added advantage.
This is going to be pack racing at 220 plus miles an hour. You could see everybody down trackside getting ready for the opening ceremonies under this beautiful, crystal clear day. Temperature broaching 90 degrees here in October. That's a little warm, and it's going to get real hot in the cockpit, and it's going to get even hotter out on the track. Let's go trackside now and get the final race of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series underway.
And now, race fans, welcome the 82nd Airborne Division's All-American Chorus for the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Rockets and flares hung in the air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. How about it, race fans? A nice round of applause for the 82nd Airborne Division's All-American Chorus.
The F-16s from nearby Nellis Air Force Base, home of the Thunderbirds. There's your pole sitter, Tony Kanaan, as he is going to start this 34-car field out front. And when we come back, we'll fire engines.
ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at Las Vegas on ABC. Brought to you by Sunoco, fueling victories on and off the track. Here's to victory. IZOD. Visit IZOD.com to purchase latest in IZOD fall fashion. And GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between.
For 125 years, Sunoco's been propelling people forward to their destinations and to their victories. And as of 2011, we'll do the same for some of the world's greatest drivers as we become an official fuel partner of IndyCar. We'll fuel their victories the same way we've been fueling yours. Because winning is the greatest feeling in the world.
Story about a man with a car and a job, a wife and a kid, and his name is Bob. Just a regular guy with a regular car, but it's what he rolls on that makes him a star. His Firestone tires are known far and wide. The way they perform gives a sense of pride. And that's Bob's story. He ain't no liar, because everybody knows the legends ride fire.
Legendary drivers need legendary tires.
The world of IZOD at Facebook.com.
In IndyCar racing, it's all about speed, and the action happens in the blink of an eye.
So you need something that helps you keep up, like IndyCar Mobile from Verizon. It lets you keep pace with streaming video from race control and puts you in the driver's seat with live views from the in-car camera. Download it now! Before the season passes you by!
Get in the driver's seat with the new in-car camera on IndyCar Mobile. Text Indy to 34006 to download IndyCar Mobile, only from Verizon.
Here at Las Vegas Motor Speedways, what makes this sport so great, it's not just about the athlete himself. It is a true battle of mettle and might.
Each new IndyCar season is forged from cold, raw materials, heated by the flame of competition, and crafted from time-tested tools and principles. The 2011 season has been sculpted and honed by racing's best, all seeking the ultimate prize, the IndyCar Championship. After more than 100 years of racing tradition, this series isn't showing any signs of slowing down. A century of celebration, marked with an unforgettable running of the 100th anniversary of the inaugural Indianapolis 500, added more history to an already epic race.
Dan Weldon is going to win the race. That is unbelievable.
That Cinderella story can be continued today as Dan Weldon challenges the field for a $5 million day. Danica Patrick has had more focus and drive than ever. A win today would be a sweet goodbye from the series that has lifted her to fame and fortune.
Danica Patrick, number 16, leads the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500.
And for the second year in a row, the desires of the entire field have come down to the same two stars. Dario Franchitti, in pursuit of racing glory and his fourth IndyCar championship, a historic third in a row. A team targeted to continue to chip away at a racing legend's leading number of 12 championships. Team Penske's will is powered by a road course star needing to prove his will on Las Vegas's high-banked, high-speed oval. The time is now for Will Power to go all in for his first championship. Tensions between these two have been running high.
Dario and Will Power make contact!
Man, really disappointed in Dario. I always race him clean. He always races me dirty.
Today, each grasps for victory, more precious than the metal from which it was forged. Who will win this championship, this season? All the labor, the discipline, the emotion expended in its creation.
He is furious.
Who will win this trophy?
For those two contenders, of course, it's that championship and the $1 million bonus. For 32 others, some are fighting for their jobs. Others looking to make a statement on their own career. And of course, for the series itself, the last time we'll ever see these Dallara chassis as a new car comes out next year. Let's get the final race started.
This Motor Speedway race fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in motorsports, a custom that originated in the greatest spectacle of racing, the Indianapolis 500. Here for today's Eyes on IndyCar Series World Championships presented by Honda, our honorary Grand Marshal, skateboarding legend Tony Hawk, to give the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
The command has been given. Vitex, when you're ready, let me know, please. Plane control, roll one, World Championship hot. 2 hot. 3, 1 hot, 1 hot. 4 hot. 5 hot.
So you can hear the command from each row as the officials let each person know in the field that the car in their row has started. Let's get a quick update on this pressure that the two owners are facing. Vince is caught up with Chip Ganassi.
But Chip, just before, Chip, what was the message you gave to your team today before coming out to this championship battle?
Well, to the team you say one thing, and to Dario, he knows what to do. But, you know, to the team, it's the keystone in our season. We're going to put the keystone in right here today.
Thanks, Chip. Jamie?
And Roger Penske looking to win his first championship in 5 years. Your driver, Will Power, starting mid-pack. What's your biggest concern today, Roger?
Well, I think we've had a great season. Will's done a terrific job winning 6 races, but to see both Dario and Will sitting in the middle of this pack, it's going to be exciting. We haven't seen 34 cars for a long time, so it's going to be an interesting race. Fuel economy is going to be key, but key stops in the pits. We just have to do our job.
What kind of race are you expecting to see today? A lot of talk about side-by-side. What kind of race are you expecting?
I missed that.
A lot of talk about how exciting side-by-side action on this track, how fast they're going. What do you expect?
Well, I think you're going to see 3x3. I told our guys we don't need to hang out up in the upper lane until the last 50 laps because this race is like anything else. It's won at the end, not in the beginning. So good racing, good clean stops, and I hope that number 12 gets there first.
All right, Roger Penske, Will Power, hoping to stop Dario Franchitti from winning 3 straight. Marty?
Jamie, I don't know about down there, but up here we can feel the tension building as we take a look at our GoDaddy.com rules of racing.
Well, Marty, the push to pass that Honda provides, the driver gets to push a button in the steering wheel. He gets to do that 20 times in 12 seconds of time. He'll get more power. It takes 10 seconds for that recharge. And 3 pit stops, we know if it goes all green, we know the strategy will change throughout the day. All the drivers say Indianapolis 500 type speeds here, 222 for pole time. We don't see speeds like that in ovals, usually with the exception of at the 500. And a very racy track. You heard Roger say 3x3. We expect 3 wide, maybe 4 wide, some of the drivers tell me. And patience, boy, you better have it. 34 cars here, pick and choose, because it's going to have to get to the end if you have a shot at winning this thing.
And the 34th and final car starting in this field will be driven by Dan Weldon, going for the $5 million bonus if he can win the race. He is our in-race reporter. There he is in the number 77. Let's talk to him, Scott.
Dan Weldon, Scott Goodyear up in the ABC booth. Do you have us?
I've got you, Scott.
Big question everybody wants to know, Dan, today is, can you win and take home the $5 million bonus?
Honestly, Scott, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I could win. Certainly, I'm not underestimating the talent of the other drivers in the field. I think IndyCar's got a phenomenal field right now. I want to thank GoDaddy and Verizon for this opportunity. And let me tell you, the Sam Schmidt Motorsports team, Brian Herder Autosport guys have been working hard on this Bowers and Wilkins at Magnolia car with William Rast, Curb, and Big Machine Records. So just so you know, Big Machine Records took after Taylor Swift. She's big right now. I've got to try and impress them a lot.
And the speeds we have here, 222 miles an hour. I mean, just fantastic speeds here today. You expect that in the race?
Absolutely. I think they'll be a little bit faster, but this is going to be a spectacle. This is a great way to go out for the IndyCar Series in 2011. We know we've got the new cars and multiple engine manufacturers coming for 2012. So we're excited and grateful to Honda for sponsoring this particular race.
Good luck today, Dan.
There's our starting field across the top of the screen. The 2 championship contenders will be in row number 9. The onboards from the back to the front. Dan Weldon is 34th as we move forward.
And for Charlie Kimball, who we ride along with now, was 4 years ago today. He told his dad that he found out he had type 1 diabetes.
Dario Franchitti will be starting in 18th place, a position he is not accustomed to.
And right alongside is Will Power starting 17th. J.R. Hildebrand starting 15th. Danica Patrick 9th, and Ryan Briscoe in the 5th starting position. As they come out of turn number 4, the pace cars already dropped down, and here they come down the front straightaway, and the final race for the championship is green. But we're already seeing 3 wide, coming out of 2. Dario Franchitti in the number 10. Will Power right alongside. They're going to try to feel themselves out a little bit, I think, guys. They didn't want to get in any early trouble.
Spoke to both those guys. They know they have to be there at the end. And Eddie, as we know, when you start a race, you might have a plan. You take the green flag and you put your foot on the gas, and all you want to do is pass the car that's in front of you.
The only plan these drivers have right now is to make sure they don't make a mistake. That's a big, gnarly, massive cars, and everybody is trying to find their rhythm.
Right now, it is Tony Kanaan up front of Ed Carpenter, Oriol Servia, Marco Andretti, Ryan Briscoe. And farther back, just pick your favorite driver because they are literally wheel to wheel, side by side.
I Remember, this track has changed since you and I ran here, Eddie. They put a higher banking here, up to 20 degrees. And this track is very different because of the dog leg in the front. The drivers are going through turns 3 and 4 right now. And this dog leg in the front, you come up here and basically it's another left-hand turn, and you have to watch who's on the inside of you because you can really squeeze somebody down.
This is one of those places where you have to make sure your spotter and you are working in total tandem. Tony Kanaan's looking really strong.
Look right in the middle of that screen. There's the number 10 of Dario Franchitti as he is continuing to sort of be in the middle of things. And you can see, we'll keep updating you as the points as they run. There's the 12. And Dario's just getting ahead of Will Power now as we look out the back. Things starting to sort out a little bit now.
All those sparks you see, remember, full fuel right now. Tire pressures will build as they run a few laps. Raises the car off the ground. Those sparks will go away. Nothing to be concerned about for the drivers at this time.
Checking in on that battle for fourth right there, Ryan Briscoe, Oriol Servia.
Tell you who's really impressive right now is Ed Carpenter. He's picked up where he was in Kentucky.
On board with Briscoe. The 98 of Alex Tagliani on the high side.
Oh, so close up there. Touching top there.
These are not stock cars. They don't do very well when they rub sides with each other.
But did you listen to that? They touched and they didn't even take their foot off the gas. They just kept on going.
That was Ryan Hunter-Reay on the outside. He made a good move to avoid making that a 3-car pileup as he was on the worst end of that, being on the high side. Nothing's changed up front. Tony Kanaan is still leading, but boy, the action back behind him, he doesn't know what he's missing.
He does know what he's missing. He's glad he's not in the middle of it.
Right now, Franchitti is running. Well, he's just moved up into the 18th position. Will Power has dropped back, guys. He is now running 26th. And there is Will. As that, look who's passed him, the 77 of Dan Weldon. Points as they run right now, Franchitti's favorite. The challenge for second place getting a little more interesting as Marco Andretti looking to the outside.
And what's really interesting there is that Ed Carpenter probably could pull himself up a little bit closer to Kanaan, but he's not.
Remember, when you get close to the car that's in front of you, that dirty air that comes off that car, Eddie, as you and I know from driving these, really takes the downforce off your car, maybe lightens up the front, and the car won't turn as well as it wants to. We call that understeer, and if the car can work well behind the car that's in front, great. If not, use the tools in the cockpit, the weight jacker and the adjusting bars, maybe make it a little bit better.
Looking for Dan Weldon. Started 34th in this field. He has moved up 10 spots. You're on board with him. And one thing he was worried about going into this race was all that dirty air created by 34 cars.
But right now, the position he's in, he actually has a small advantage because everybody else has opened the air up in front of him. And he, oh, here we go.
Trouble contact and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh, my. It looks like Dan Weldon may be involved in it.
And Eddie, you and I spoke about this morning on the drive-in. Just this amount of cars, the speed, just the chance for what they call the big one.
And what happens in conditions like that, even if you're 300 yards behind that, you cannot stop these cars. The only option you have is to try to avoid it, and it was impossible to avoid anything there.
And you saw Will Power, his car involved as well. My. What a mess. That's Townsend Bell that was, I think his car was up on its side there, the 22.
15 there of Jay Howard, an additional entry. Excuse me, is that the 19 or 15? I can't see with the sun shining there. Some of the car is broken. They're showing that as Alex Lloyd, the 19.
It is the 15 of Jay Howard.
Yes.
One of the cars actually flew for about 200 yards in the air.
Red flag is out here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on lap number 12. And from high above, you can see the carnage.
We talk about the car going through the air, Eddie. You know that these cars run so low down to the ground. We mentioned before, we saw them hitting the ground and sparking, that anything underneath the car, underneath the floor, underneath the tub, really just gets the air underneath the car itself, and up it will go.
We saw J.R. Hildebrand out of his car. There there is Dario Franchitti. Somehow he managed to get through the carnage, but
Sure, guys, I mean, there's just nothing I can do.
Will Power did not.
10-4. They are going to stop you at pit lane on the right-hand side. They want the drivers to stay in the cars.
What Franchitti was alluding to is there's nothing he can do avoiding the debris that's on the track.
Well, there is debris everywhere. You can see just how many cars are literally torn apart. And this was the one thing, and there is the 18 of James Jakes. Now, he had a crash early in practice on Friday. That is actually a KV Racing backup car that they put together for him. Now, I don't see much damage on there, but he's out of the cockpit. And look at this from high above. And this was the one thing we were fearing when we saw qualifying and the two championship contenders in the middle of the field, a big crash like this early in the race.
What happens in accidents like this is that a single mistake by anybody, which might be dirty air, could be anything, multiplies itself so fast that you start accumulating cars. There's no way that you can control what happens. Once you start spinning at those speeds, it's impossible. It's impossible to solve the problem.
And when we were watching that, Eddie, I'm not sure that anybody made a mistake because I started to see some sparks. I was wondering if actually there was a suspension failure or a failure on a car, and the sparks I saw, and then all of a sudden people started to collide with each other. So not sure if it was a driver error.
There's Paul Tracy to the right there. We're going to sort this out. We know at least 8 cars are involved, maybe more. So stay with us. We'll go side by side, and it's only lap 13. And we've already had a huge crash here at Las Vegas.
Danica, it's time for a new GoDaddy ad, and I'm thinking bikini bull riding. Naughty nurse?
Didn't I fire you after the last ad?
A little bit, but this one's all about Instant Page.
The free web page you get with every domain registration. I like it.
And you're gonna love the outfit.
I can't believe I'm gonna do this.
See what happens next at GoDaddy.com.
Service Central. Service you'll only find at Tire Kingdom, MTB, Merchants Tire, and Big O Tire stores. Service backed and guaranteed at more than 1,300 locations nationwide. Service Central's ASC certified technicians do the job right the first time. Guaranteed service, guaranteed lowest prices. Service Central, only at Tire Kingdom, MTB, Merchants Tire, and Big O Tire stores. Service Central, the best of the best.
What does it take to be a top-rated pit crew? Your 40-hour work week, you can go ahead and throw it in the garbage.
5-Hour Energy is part of the team because it helps keep us going.
You can do a 5-hour shot and be good to go for the whole race.
Coffee just doesn't cut it.
There are a few teams that do go after the 5-Hour Energy inside the truck. We try to keep them away.
You know, they see the edge that it gives us, and they want the same thing.
This is going to war.
5-Hour Energy. What's driving you?
There's a reason why in 6 years of powering every car in the Indianapolis 500 race, not a single Honda engine has failed. It's not the parts we make them from. It's the part we put in to every Honda.
I'm here to win. I'm here to win.
I'm here to win.
The Pan American Games continue through October 30th on the ESPN networks.
Under a red flag situation here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway after at least 12-car crash, and maybe as many as 15 had some other damage, or 3 other cars had other damage, bringing the total to 15. 19 cars right now are shown on the lead lap. They are still working. That is Dan Weldon's machine, and the Hamaltro safety crew trying to do everything they can to make sure they get him out of the car safely. You see EJ Vizo's car in the foreground there. He is out of his machine, and no word yet on his condition. There's Charlie Kimball's car, the 57 of Thomas Schechter. Both of those guys are out of their cars, and we'll have to wait for the official update from the medical center. We saw a number of drivers able to get out under their own power, and obviously right now all thoughts are right there. There is Pippa Mann as they are trying to get her out of her car.
She has had a tough time in a couple of races that she's done so far this year, and I talked to her just about a couple of weeks ago after the test, and she was very excited about coming back here and started this racing business a little bit crazy because she was riding ponies back in England, went to a birthday party at 13 that had go-karts there, and she said, my whole perspective in life changed.
This is her 4th race in the IndyCar series. She made her debut back at Indy for her first 500, finished 20th there. That was her best finish of the year. And we'll think good thoughts as it's good to see her able to walk under her own power. And they don't need the gurney there as she climbs in to the ambulance. That's not a good sign.
Nope. The helicopter being started up is not a good sign.
But Marty, you're talking about the Hamaltrol safety crew, and these are crews that go on the road here with the drivers and the teams all throughout the races and even to different countries. And 2 trauma physicians are on track here along with 3 paramedics, 9 firefighters, the EMTs that they have, and these are all people that are all our events. And as drivers, we know that when we have a situation like this, Eddie, that the best people are there to take care of us.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is slow motion from high above.
We talked about 3 or 4 wide.
Watch Sebastian Zaveja, right?
Yes.
A little contact right there.
Now he's trying to go from the low side to the high, from the high side down low to get going for the turn.
Oh.
And what ends up happening is that he got stuck back up there, turned around, tried to take another move going down, guys, and the back end started to come around, and that started the chain reaction.
He was uncomfortable being on the top lane, and he tried, like you said, there's the car. Now there's 2 cars that are airborne. This puts IndyCar racing in perspective. This is the horrible accident that everybody has always hoped would never occur.
And as we said, 15 cars we now know of involved out of the 34 that started this race. We're under a red flag situation. We'll step aside. We'll stay side by side here at Las Vegas.
We're trying to take it to the next level at every step, and Mothers is a partner we trust.
Mothers really helps make our cars stand out. It's genuine, it's authentic, and it's best in class.
We actually use Mothers Wheel Care products during our production process.
It's so easy to use. Just spray it on and wash off. It's just that simple.
Trusted and used by industry pros at Pirelli Tire North America, SMS Supercars, and HRE Performance Wheels. Mother's full line of wheel cleaners make cleaning any wheel a snap.
Like so many great pioneers before me, guided only by a dream, I'm embarking on a journey of epic proportion. I will travel from sea to shining sea, through amber waves of grain, and I won't stop until I've helped every driver in America save hundreds on car insurance. Well, I'm at the parking lot. That's a good start.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Is that thing getting closer? Look how high that thing's going. Look out there. Look at the debris. Give me the camera. No, just drive. I've got it. Zoom in. Zoom in. I can't believe this is happening. Oh, what size is that thing? It's everywhere. Are you getting this? Yeah, I've got it. What was that? It's the National Guard. How'd they get here so fast? I don't know. Pull over. Pull over.
Do you have what it takes to head into the heart of the storm? Check out NationalGuard.com.
3 years ago, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, I was afraid I'd never get back in a race car. But now, the chance to race the Indianapolis 500 and the IZOD IndyCar Series is extremely fulfilling. I nearly lost the chance to do what I love. And there's no place I'd rather be than at the racetrack in a race car. I'm living my dream of driving race cars at over 200 miles an hour. And with Novo Nordisk's help, I'm proving to people with diabetes that you can do almost anything you want in life, even drive a race car.
We are under a red flag situation here at what was hoping to be a big celebration of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series at the World Championships after a 15-car pileup here on lap number 12. And we are waiting word on several drivers as they had to be assisted from their cars. We saw many of the 15 be able to get out on their own power. Thomas Schechter's car right there as it's on the hook. There is Will Power. His championship hopes for the second year in a row are dashed in this lap 12 crash. We have confirmation that Schechter and Hildebrand have been discharged from the infield care center, and both declined to talk at this time. I think they wanted to get back to their teams. We'll wait for more word. Let's give you an idea just how many have been involved in this crash. And of course, it starts with Will Power. His championship, as we mentioned, over. J.R. Hildebrand, he was in the Rookie of the Year competition. Jay Howard, Wade Cunningham, Townsend Bell, Thomas Schechter, Vitor Mirin, his final ride with A.J. Foyt. He will not be coming back to that team next year. Charlie Kimball, Paul Tracy, E.J. Vizo, Dan Weldon, and the quest for the $5 million is over. Alex Lloyd, Pippa Mann, Buddy Rice. So that is the list of the cars involved. And there's what's left of Buddy Rice's number 44, Dallara, as other cars on the hook heading back to the garage area. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations. Under a red flag situation after 12 of 200 laps at the IZOD IndyCar World Championship presented by Sunoco. And you see the 77 of Dan Weldon's car, what is left of it. Other cars of the 15 involved, as they are all on the hook being taken back into the garage area. One of the guys involved in the crash, Wade Cunningham. Jamie Little, you've caught up with him?
Yes, we're back here at the medical center, and there's a lot of long faces. And Wade, you're the first one that wanted to talk. From your perspective, what did you see?
It's just things happen in this kind of racing. It's so close, not much room for error. And I was near the front of what caused all this, so I'm not thrilled about it. But it's not like, at this point, whoever's fault it was is kind of immaterial. There's a couple of people hurt in there, and that's the main thing. So, you know, just going to keep my fingers crossed for everyone that was in the accident, and hopefully no serious injuries.
And you're okay?
Yeah, I'm 100%.
Okay, and we do want to report that J.R. Hildebrand walked out. He did not want to talk, and once they brought Dan Weldon into the medical center, J.R. went back in there, and a lot of drivers hanging out just to hear the outcome here. Let's go over to Rick DeBrule with Roger Penske.
Yeah, standing by with Roger. You know, and the championship seems almost so inconsequential as a result of what you've seen out here, but at least two of your cars are still in, and it looks like Will's okay.
Yeah, Will's okay is the main thing. It's unfortunate that, you know, early on in the race, they got to be racing so close, and we have that kind of, but it's, I guess they call it a big one. You always worry about those on these mile-and-a-halfs at the speed of as many cars, but fortunately, as far as I know, the drivers are okay. That's the most important thing. You know, we can go on to next year. Will had a great year, but just so unfortunate to have him knocked out with 3 crazy accidents, but it's what it is, and Briscoe's up there, Elio's up there, see if we can't finish the day.
Looking at championships, and I realize it's hard to just start talking about championships, but, you know, do you look back at this year and think, okay, what could we do differently next year? So I mean, obviously not this accident, but those other incidents.
Well, I think it's just you got to play heads up in the pits. You know, we had a couple accidents in the pits with Will. I mean, he's obviously executing on the racetrack, and this is something that you're going to have happen in racing. It could be anyone. You saw it last night, you know, in NASCAR with Johnson. I mean, these are unfortunate. I think the drivers, you know this is an option that can happen, and you just hope it's not you. And to me, what we need to do is move forward here, and we got a great team, and these guys have worked hard all year, great sponsor with Verizon, and our team IZOD has done a great job with the series. So what we have to do is just stay forward here and just hope everybody's okay.
All right, once again, Roger Penske, 2 cars still in the race, but the championship battle for Penske is over.
And there is Will Power's car. And we're going to go on board with Will and give you another perspective of exactly what happened in this 15-car melee.
And Eddie, as we know, when you're driving along at these speeds, you're going the length of a football field in less than a second. So if something happens in front of you, you can never have enough reaction time.
It's impossible. You have no time to do anything. What happens maybe is just a small miscommunication between 2 drivers. Somebody spins and you have 20 cars that arrive on the scene at 220 miles an hour. It's physically impossible to do anything, and things like that tend to multiply themselves.
Well, Vince Welch has caught up with Alex Lloyd. Vince?
Alex, we just saw the replay. Where were you and all of that?
It looks like the first kind of group got together. I kind of checked up, and then looking at that, looks Will's on board. Looked like Will then went, didn't get it checked up, obviously, and went into the back of me and over the top of me. But yeah, it was just chaos. I mean, it just all of a sudden the whole track just gets littered. I mean, just cars everywhere, and as I said, the guys from behind. I mean, it's just mass chaos out there. Unfortunately, it's something I think a lot of us maybe thought might happen. I mean, we've practiced with no more than 5 or 6 cars in a group, and now we've got 34. There was going to be some trouble. I mean, my biggest thoughts right now are just with Dan, Susie, and their family, and just hope everything goes okay from their end.
Good to see you're okay. That's Alex Lloyd. Marty.
And you've heard the references to Dan, and we have not had any word on his condition. As soon as we get word, we, of course, will pass it on. But you can see the concern of everyone as there is Alex's car. Paul Tracy, we saw him out of the car. Jamie, you've caught up with him?
Yes, and he has a long history of racing, even racing at this track. Where were you in the middle of that?
I mean, I saw two cars touch each other up in front of me, and then I tried to slow down and couldn't slow down. And then Dan's car, from what I saw from the video, came over my back wheel and over top of me, and it's just a horrendous accident. And a lot of prayers right now for Dan, because it's going to be a long recovery.
What have you guys as drivers back here in the medical center been told about his condition as of now?
We haven't really been told anything. They're scrambling in there right now. There's 20 doctors in there, and we basically have been shuffled out. But, there's a lot of frustration from the drivers. There's a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of young drivers that don't even know how to react. So it's a bad situation.
Thank you for your time. Paul Tracy is okay, Marty.
One of the great things about the IndyCar Series, they travel a set of doctors and medical officials that are specialists in a number of areas, and they are at every race. That's the group of doctors that you heard Paul Tracy refer to that are working on Dan Wheldon and the others. And as we get more information, we'll pass it along. Stay with us.
Hey, Mario.
Hey, what do you got in this thing?
16 valve, 2.4 liter engine, 200 horsepower.
Air conditioning.
32 valve, 3.5 liter engine, 650 horsepower, air conditioning.
Honda builds every IndyCar engine. It's our commitment to racing and engineering. The same engineering that goes into the all-new Civic, the official vehicle of the IZOD IndyCar Series.
For 125 years, Sunoco's been propelling people forward to their destinations and to their victories. And as of 2011, we'll do the same for some of the world's greatest drivers as we become an official fuel partner of IndyCar. We'll fuel their victories the same way we've been fueling yours. Because winning is the greatest feeling in the world.
Welcome to the Van Heusen Institute of Style. You may come as schlubs, but you will leave with swagger. Exhibit A, khakis to work? What a schlub. Exhibit B, man, this is style in motion, the definition of swagger. Style is a statement, gentlemen, and a statement we will make.
Guys, check it out. You and four buddies want to make a style statement this February at the Super Bowl? You'll be cruising in the G4, posing for the paparazzi and hanging in the suite with Steve, Jerry, and Fred. Go to jcp.com/Van Heusen for contest details.
Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, after 12 laps, we have a red flag situation in the final race of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series, and 15 cars involved. Now, the tarp over Dan Wheldon's car, they're trying to keep all the pieces and everything together there, and as they take it back to the garage area, and other cars, they've been able to just get on the hook, but obviously they needed a tow back for this one, as Dan's car flew into the catch fence. There is Danica Patrick's car. She is one of the 19 that escaped this crash. Let's go back and show you her onboard view of what happened.
And as a driver, when this happens in front of you, Eddie, as you know, we talked about it a moment ago, it's just reactionary time, and you hope that there's a clear path for you to go through. Now, as we see the car starting to touch and go airborne, as a driver, you're looking for a clean hole, but sometimes when you get to that clean hole, it is then filled with other cars or debris. But for Danica Patrick, she escaped this today, and she was very lucky.
Very lucky. But what happens in those circumstances is that at every split second, probably hundreds of thousands of seconds, are just enough to get you through that hole. So you're not looking at the car in front of you. You're probably 300 yards farther down the road, so that you can make it's not even a calculation, it's a reflex. It's like somebody throwing a ball at you, and you just see it at the last second and you move out of the way.
If you are just tuning in, that is Will Powers, Dallara, and there is Will leaving the medical center, and of course that means his championship hopes for the second year in a row are dashed. This one through no fault of his own, really, as the crash happened in front of him, and as many of these cars, they got swept up. And there's Dario Franchitti talking over with Tim Cindric, because Dario knows that he has clinched his third straight championship and fourth overall. Rick?
Dario, let's start off by talking about the accident. I mean, obviously, this was a concern of a lot of people, not just the fact that something could happen, but if it happened so fast. What was your view of everything?
My view was the back wing of Scott's target car, really. I was sitting behind Scott. I could see it was, within 5 laps, people were starting to do crazy stuff. And that early in the race, I don't want no part of it full stop, but I wanted no part of it there. I love hard racing, but that to me is not really what it's about. I said before we tested here, having driven the stock car here, this is not a suitable track, and we've seen it today. It's just you can't get away from anybody. There's no way to differentiate yourself, either with car or driver. You're just stuck there, and people get frustrated and go 4 wide, and you saw what happened. One small mistake from somebody, and there's a massive thing. So it's I hope everybody's okay. I don't know. I saw a couple of cars airborne in front of me, but at that point, my focus was very much on trying not to hit Scott, and it's just, as I say, right now all I care about is that everybody is okay.
A lot of debris on the track. Obviously, you had to go through a bunch of that debris. How is your car?
The car's fine. The guys, the IndyCar Series let us change the tires, so we've got 4 new Firestones on there. That's always our biggest worry in these situations, and so I'll be interested to see what they say now, what we're going to do. We've obviously lost a lot of cars. So we'll see what happens.
All right, once again, Dario able to get through safely, and now worried about everybody else.
Let's go on board and show you exactly what Dario was talking about.
All the action starts up front, Marty. As you know, we just mentioned it's very difficult to try and avoid it. And as Dario was mentioning, he's just looking forward, trying not to hit the car that's in front of him or subsequent cars that are there. And luckily for him, he got through before everything started to go just upside down.
But it's also where you position yourself on the track. He was saying, he just said in his interview, he hated being around cars that he was uncomfortable with. Everybody was doing something crazy. So as you could see, he was already on the bottom of the track. If you're on the top of the track, that's where everything goes naturally. So you have more room to avoid things. And I think that was luck, but also a sign of experience. Stay down low.
All right, just a moment ago, the helicopter here on site lifted off. We do not know who is inside that helicopter at this moment, so we'll wait for word from IndyCar officials. But think good thoughts, folks. We're going to step aside here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
People choose 5-Hour Energy now over 9 million times a week for lots of reasons. It's a nutritional supplement that really works. Its key ingredients are found in everyday food like avocados, broccoli, and bananas, or already in you. It contains about as much caffeine as a cup of the leading premium coffee. 0 sugar, 4 calories. What will your reason be for choosing 5-Hour Energy? Its effectiveness? Its beneficial ingredients? There's only one way to know. Try it today.
In IndyCar racing, it's all about speed, and the action happens in the blink of an eye. So you need something that helps you keep up, like IndyCar Mobile from Verizon. It lets you keep pace with streaming video from Race Control and puts you in the driver's seat with live views from the in-car camera. Download it now! Before the season passes you by!
Get in the driver's seat with the new in-car camera on IndyCar Mobile. Text Indy to 3406 to download IndyCar Mobile, only from Verizon.
Daily driving or hard charging, time and the elements can take their toll on your car's exterior. Mother's Back to Black line of products will restore the original look to trim with anti-color and keep tires looking blacker longer. Easy to apply and long-lasting. Let the legendary protection of Mother show you how to get back to black.
These days, sure, you can talk it out, work it out, cry like a little girl, or you can have a man-versation.
What do you get a kid turning 13 that says, I'm a man?
How about a couple of hookers? Tuesday.
Or a trash bag full of chicken wings.
These 3 modern men solve their problems by talking man to man.
We'll go shirts and skins. That way there's no confusion about who's on what team.
ABC's Man Up premieres after Tim Allen and Last Man Standing, Tuesday on ABC.
Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we continue our red flag situation after a 15-car crash. And what IndyCar officials have decided, they've allowed the 19 cars that are still running to go back to their pit stalls. They will replace tires, and any other further changes, we will let you know exactly how that continues to unfold. Now, there is Ryan Briscoe. He made it through the carnage, and he is with Rick.
Yeah, let's talk. You had the advantage of being ahead of the accident, so you didn't see it happen, but you came back around and saw what was on the track. What was your first thought when you came by?
Well, honestly, you know, I was looking for power, you know, and just feel really terrible that that he's out. And I know it's not the way Franchitti wanted to win the championship, but really heartbreaking for Team Penske and all of us that have worked so hard. But I tell you, I've never seen anything like it. The debris we all had to drive through the lap later. It looked like a war scene from Terminator or something. I mean, it was just, there were just pieces of metal and car on fire in the middle of the track with no car attached to it and just debris everywhere. So it was scary, and you know, the first thought's hoping that nobody's hurt, because I mean, there's just stuff everywhere. I mean, crazy. Now,
you'd said a little bit earlier in the race you had actually had contact with somebody.
Yeah, Tagliani got into my back tire, and I think we almost caused the big one a few laps before. You know, I think we can just run so close together at the moment on this circuit. But we're doing 220 plus mile an hour, and it doesn't take much for something bad to happen. And you know, I was lucky that nothing bad happened. It was going up the back straight, and next thing I felt the car just turned sideways when Tags got into me. But thankfully we got away with that one. But I guess the guys a bit further back didn't.
Once again, Ryan Briscoe sitting aside, waiting for the race to restart.
Well, and everybody who thinks that racing has become oh so safe, I think you just found out it has its moments, and it has some very scary moments. We have no further information as of this point. IndyCar officials are working to get updated information to us. As soon as they do, we will pass it along. We will do no speculation whatsoever on the condition of any of the drivers until we get official word or can talk to them. You guys have been in these crashes, maybe not as severe as a 15-car pileup. What goes through drivers' minds? Let's take first off the guys that are involved in the scenario.
Well, in this particular situation, I mean, you're really wondering about what the other drivers, what kind of injuries, if there is injuries, what's going on with that. And when we get into a car, and Eddie, you know, we all know this, we understand that there could be an accident. We understand that there can be a big one, but it doesn't make you feel any better when you step out of the car knowing that there actually has been an accident and there is injuries. And we understand we're going to hit the wall. We understand there will be injuries. We understand there will be times where we're actually not able to drive for maybe a month or two, or Justin Wilson this year being out for the remainder of the season after Mid-Ohio breaking his back. But this still shocks us when there's a situation when there's a lot of bad injuries and we don't know the outcome yet.
I think it's not knowing, but one thing that you hit upon that is very true is that is a group of people that are together on the racetrack when they're traveling, partying, arguing, but they're always friends. They all fly together. They have their debriefings. They've known each other throughout their career. So when something like this happens, everybody in that pit right now is praying for whomever is involved in the accident, and it's just so disheartening to see something like that happen. But when you're going those speeds and you have that many cars on the track, we've always known that things like this could happen. There's just too many cars on too easy of a track to drive on.
Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon talking over. You saw just a few shots ago work going on the safer barriers, but more importantly, the catch fence. As several cars got up into that fence, it has to be repaired. Let's talk about those safer barriers, because 15 cars, and without those safer barriers, I think this would have been even more difficult to be talking about than it is right now.
And Marty, this is something that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway over a decade ago started working on. It's a steel and foam energy reduction system, and you can see the concrete wall on your right-hand side, the absorbing foam there in the middle, and then the steel reinforcement there on your left-hand side. And before, Eddie, as we know, when we hit the wall, it was concrete. Now when you hit these walls, they call them soft walls. No, they are not soft, but they absorb a lot of the impact. A lot of the type of forces that we used to see when we hit the concrete are now removed, and sometimes drivers can step away from the car after hitting that softer barrier where they would not have when they're hitting the concrete. But the cars have become safer, the tracks are becoming safer. We all worry about the catch fence. The 2012 cars coming on board, it has been designed and built with safety in mind, a larger cockpit area, safer for the drivers, but we can't make sure that we're taking care of everything that's out there that we have no control of sometimes.
It is physically impossible to build a car and a track that can take care of all the circumstances that happen when you have cars crashing at 220 miles an hour. But we have to remind everybody of all the advances that have gone into that those monocoques that you see right there have just withstood an incredible accident, and we see a lot of the drivers getting out, walking around. That looked to me like an airplane crash. And the walls absorb, it's no longer, like you said, a cement wall that just pushes you back. It absorbs probably 50% of the energy that has to get dissipated over time. The worst accidents are the ones when you see a car in a very clean, just one thump and it stops. But when they bounce and turn and spin and things fall off it, that's actually a good accident because you're dissipating all of that energy.
Energy, exactly.
As some of the drivers could discuss it down on pit lane, as we've got Danica Patrick also down on pit lane. And let's go back and show you her view one more time from her on board and how she made it through.
Now she's in the right place. Again, she's on the bottom of the track. This accident originated up high and migrated down. She's very lucky that this car does not come down in front of her. Now, there's nothing, this is seen in slow motion. There's nothing you can do in the car. You make one decision, and at those speeds, you have to stick to it. You cannot weave at 220 miles an hour up the track and down the track.
Rick DeBrule is with her.
Yeah, standing by with Danica, you saw how close that was, and they were just talking in the booth about how you almost don't have time to react.
You know, I was really nervous coming into today, and why is because I knew that you were going to, as a driver, be put into positions to where you were going to have to either decide to be flat out and possibly be a part of something like that, or look like a wimp and lift. But you know what? I lifted a little. I mean, there's just a lot going on out there, and it's way, way, way too early to be, you know, getting runs and not lifting in the middle of the corner. You know, feel out your car, get used to it, see how it changes over the run. I mean, I was running the bottom, I started getting a little bit of push on the bottom, so you just kind of lift a little going into the corner, keep it under control, make an improvement on a pit stop. But I'm sure there was some things that happened that were out of anyone's control, and definitely there were a lot of cars that were in it that shouldn't have been in it. But you know, I hope, I mean, the first thing I said was wow, and then I said I hope everybody's okay, because it was like a movie scene. It was, you know, which they try and make look as gnarly as possible, and it was debris everywhere across the whole track. There was, you could smell the smoke, you could see the billowing smoke on the back straight from a car. There was a chunk of fire that we were driving around out there, and then you just see cars scattered, and it was, you know, I mean, I hope everyone's okay. I know we haven't maybe heard about Dan, and that's just, you just don't want to have to be in that position, you know? We shouldn't have to.
We had talked to you about the emotions coming into this final race, what it was going to be like for you today. Obviously, this just takes it in a whole different direction.
That's what we were talking about. You know, you have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose, except I have everything to lose. You know, it's all that sort of emotion wrapped in one, because I want to finish well and I want to do well. I don't want to be in an accident like that. And I know my instincts are decent enough to try and not get a part of that, but it's going to come down to more of that in this race, I think. I mean, it's going to not be quite as bad if there's not so many cars, but hopefully it will just get everyone to straighten up and think, you know what, let's just be calm. Let's get down to the last 20 or 30 laps. Let's get down to the last pit stop even, because, I mean, in my position, I have nothing to lose and I have everything to lose.
Are you concerned at all about finishing this race?
No, I'm not. I mean, I know how to finish the race, unless, of course, you're caught in something that you can't, that is unavoidable. But, you know, I was just talking to my dad, and he was like, you know, it's a good thing you weren't up top. And I drove down the bottom for the first, 5 or 6 laps and started getting a little tight. So I thought, you know what, I'll pop up high and see if I can just kind of get a more consistent run, because I was getting passed on the outside. Got up high, and that's kind of where all the chaos was. There's cars sliding all around and, you know, darting lanes and moving and, you know, just taking up the track and making it 3 wide and, you know, chopping in front of me. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get down to the bottom again. I might push a little on the bottom, but it's gonna be consistent. So in my long-winded answer, I feel like I can finish this race. It's just a matter of, you know, how many cats do you want to sacrifice in the process? How many lives do you have?
Danica Patrick going to go back out and finish this race and hopefully put one last IndyCar race under her belt.
Standing by with Tony Kanaan, and Tony Kanaan, if there was ever a day to be on the pole and be out in front of the field, certainly today is the day, and be able to avoid all that. Is this an unavoidable part of pack racing that we're seeing here today?
Yeah, Vince, when you're asking for a track like this with the cars that we have, it's a potential for disaster. And you have some guys getting excited out there. When we were racing so close, one mistake can take 15 people out, and that's what happened there. I've never seen such a mess in my entire career in the racetrack the way I saw. Really concerned about Dan right now. It's going to be quite hard to keep your head straight just to do this race again. I know the fans want to watch it, the fans want to watch at home here, but right now I think we need to rethink about the way we're doing things in the racetrack sometimes, because it's definitely not a good feeling.
Certainly you're one of the senior members of the driving community. Is there a message you want to maybe deliver to some of the other drivers? Will you get the guys together and gals and discuss it?
We can try to get together, but I think the message was sent half an hour ago and what happened. So everybody's looking for a win. I know this is a competition and you got to win races and you have to perform, but at the end of the day it's just a race, and we have to take care of each other. I mean, we're playing with lives here, so we'll try to get drivers together, but they should watch the tape and realize that we need to take care of each other.
When you are racing in the pack, though, Tony, what option do you have? It is wheel to wheel. It is inches apart. What other option do you have?
Pray. You just gotta pray, because you don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, things happen so quick that one little mistake, it's not even on purpose, it's gonna take everybody out, and that's the price of you know, the pack racing. So there is not a lot to do. There is no driver's skill when somebody hits you know, hit wheels in front of you and you can't stop. You're doing 220 miles an hour.
And is it realistic to ask drivers to give each other more room?
Well, we can always ask. You know, I think what happened this afternoon, it's a proof that we should give each other a little bit more room. So I'm going to keep asking, although I don't know if it's going to help, but as one of the senior members, I'm going to get Dario and the other guys, and we're going to try to get together and tell the guys to use their heads, and let's play the last 30 laps. You know, we're not going to win the race right now.
Thanks, TK. Marty.
All right, thanks, Vince. As we continue this red flag situation after a huge 15-car pileup at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and where we wanted to celebrate the crowning of a champion. Well, the champion's been crowned, but nobody's cheering right now. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations. After a huge 15-car pileup on lap number 12. We're about 38 minutes into a red flag situation in the season finale. The championship has been decided, unfortunately, by this crash, as Will Power, if you're just tuning in, was part of the crash. He is okay. We're not sure about all the other drivers. We've been able to talk to many of them, but we're still waiting for updates on many, and the drivers keep mentioning the condition of Dan Weldon, and we're waiting for IndyCar officials to give us official word from the medical center and or the hospital. Let's quickly check in with Rick DeBrule down on pit lane.
Standing by with Helio Castroneves. Obviously, you had the advantage of being up front. You'd moved up a couple positions. We've been asking some of the drivers, had there been any contact with you in any other cars, or was it a clean race for you up until that point?
No, so far for me, it's been pretty much okay. I see a lot of guys dodging each other, not understanding very much why, but so far for me, it's been okay. It's one of those things, you got to choose a lane, and sometimes that lane doesn't go that fast, but you got to be patient, because next lap may be the fastest lane around. So it's tough. If everyone start holding their line a little more steady, I do believe we're going to be an exciting race without any issues. And you know, you got to race like that when it's 15, 20 laps to go, and that's the time for you to do it like that.
When you came around, obviously you didn't see the action happen, but you came around and saw the debris and the cars on the track. What went through your mind?
It was so much smoke and so much debris that I normally, in this case, I mean, I've been long enough in sport. I just trying to, you know, focus where to go to not damage the tires or anything in the car, not even trying to look what's going on. So it's a shame. Hopefully everybody's okay, but right now we're still in the race mode here, and that's where I'm at.
Right. Helio Castroneves getting ready to get back in when they restart this race.
And we saw a shot of him a segment or two ago before you talked to him, Rick, where he was there with his own thoughts, and you could just see what you two were talking about, what goes through your mind after this process. You start thinking about not just the race. In fact, that's the furthest thing from your mind. You're thinking about who is injured and who's going to come out of this, and you can see it. It's back in his eyes right there. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti can't celebrate this championship right now, doesn't want to. And now we're getting word. Jamie Little is at the medical center. Let's get an update. Jamie, what do you know?
Well, Marty, an IndyCar Series official just confirmed to me that it was indeed Dan Weldon that was taken by air to University Medical Center. I also saw his wife and his family get transported by car to the medical center. Also going by ground, Pippa Mann and J.R. Hildebrand, both a little dizzy, and they wanted to get checked out for further evaluation. So it has been confirmed. It is Dan Weldon that was taken via helicopter to the hospital. And as soon as we get any other updates, we will get them to you. Marty?
So no word on his actual condition, Jamie?
We have not been told. You can tell the vibe down here. All the drivers, the family, very concerned. A lot of long faces and a lot of people going to the medical center right now.
Okay, and we saw over your shoulder while you were giving your report, Vitor Mir. He was another one of the cars that was involved in that slightly, and he is okay. And as there's Mike Conway as he's trying to stay out of the heat, as we'll go side by side and step aside here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
As the cars were lined up on pit lane, the red flag came out.
45 minutes into this red flag period here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway after a 15-car pileup. If you have just tuned in, the most serious injury appears to be to Dan Weldon. We have just confirmed just a few moments ago he has been transported to University Medical Center here in the Las Vegas area. And let's talk to his teammate, Alex Tagliani. Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, Alex was out in front of it, but first off, let's talk about Dan. Have you heard anything about Dan at all?
Not much, not much. So, I mean, the only thing is I'm hoping he will be okay. That's the main concern at the moment.
All right, let's talk about, you were out in front of this accident, but then you had to come back around and look at what was on the track, and what went through your mind at that point?
Yeah, it's, you know, you want to see this stuff. You know, you don't want to see this stuff because after that you're wondering if everything's okay, and as soon as you stop, you know, they're telling you, like, Dan was one of the guys involved, and, you know, he has been taken away in a helicopter, so, you know, you just don't want to think about the worst, but you also, you don't know, so it's, your mind goes all over the place, and I'm really hoping he's okay. He's my little brother from another mother, and I had a good time in Indy with him, and he's been a great teammate this weekend, so just hope for the best.
Now, earlier in the race, you had an incident, I believe, with Ryan Briscoe, where the two of you had touched wheels, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this type of racing, everybody knows that, you know, there's a little bit of side draft going on, you know, when you're in the back straightaway or on the front straightaway, and you know, I thought Graham, myself, and Ryan, you know, we thought it was a little bit too early to do that, and you know, we interlocked our wheels together, and I got up into Ryan, so I got lucky there, and I'm just hoping that everybody's going to be a little bit more calmer now that they've seen what could happen, and we have a clean race from now to the end.
Do you have any concerns getting back out on this track? And once again, drivers have talked about, not so much they were concerned about, you know, getting into the wall or anything else, it was the concern that if something happened ahead of them, they wouldn't have the time to react to get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was a concern because of the amount of cars. So 34 cars, you know, like if you're 20th, something happens to P12, I mean, you're going to be in trouble. And the thing is, you know, the nature of the track, the banking, the amount of grip, you know, there's a lot of, you know, 3 wide. And in a stack, nobody can go anywhere with the downforce we have. Nobody can break away. And you're just kind of running around in a group. So when something goes wrong, you could be, you know, just a victim. And everybody was a little bit concerned about that. And then we saw we had the proof right now. So the only thing we can do is just, you know, try to drive with our heads, you know, on our shoulder and respect each other out there.
All right, once again, Alex Tagliani sitting by waiting to restart, very concerned about his teammate.
All right, thank you very much, Rick, as we continue this red flag situation, and everyone's thoughts have turned to Dan Weldon's condition. As you see Chip Ganassi talking it over with Dario Franchitti. He has clinched the championship, but as we said, he is not in a celebratory mood. Nobody is right now, all waiting more word from the hospital. Let's get down to Vince. You've caught up with Ryan Hunter-Reay?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay has a little damage to his car, and he wasn't even in the accident. That's how physical this racing was before the big accident happened. How do you balance the hot competition versus safe racing?
It's a really good question. I mean, we knew coming into this race, racing at speeds of 225 miles an hour, that this would be a tough one to get it done without a big wreck. It only takes one small mistake to create a very big problem like we see here. I really hope Dan Weldon's okay. I haven't heard anything other than he was airlifted, but so our thoughts are there right now. But yeah, we just, as drivers, we need to get together and we need to go agree to fight this thing out the last 50 laps and try and take care of ourselves as drivers for the good chunk of the race. I mean, that was like it was the last lap for, what do we do, 12 laps now? So it's not really the way you want to do it. And we have a big, like you said, we have a big hole in the side pod right now from Tag and Briscoe. We're going at it. I was sitting on the outside and just turned right on the straightaway right into us. So luckily, Taglioni didn't end up in the air or in the fence because of that one. So we need to take a different approach here when we get back out on the track. And sorry to all the fans that we're not racing right now, but our thoughts are with Dan at the moment.
Thanks, Ryan. Marty?
Some very interesting thoughts from Ryan Hunter-Reay. Jamie Little has caught up with another guy who was involved, EJ Viso. Jamie?
Yes, and he, like many drivers, just riding around here. What's the latest you heard, EJ?
Heard about what? I mean, nobody knows much. My point of view was, well, first of all, I was having a great race. I need to thank the car that this team is giving the drivers. I think the 3 drivers were all very grateful. Unfortunately, I needed to start the race from the back because we changed the engine and we were not supposed to. Anyways, in only 10 laps, I already moved to the front 10 positions. Car was beautiful to drive. The point of the accident, I was behind, I don't know who, but suddenly I saw some smoke and I saw obviously a crash in the high line, and the car in front of me just broke, but it went to the middle of the track. I took the decision of going low, so till that point everything was clear. I had clear field, but suddenly somebody that was in front of me, I still don't know who it was, didn't brake at all, and he just hit me very hard and it took me to the wall. That's what I saw from my helmet.
Hard hit. Are you okay?
I'm fine. Nothing happened to me.
Okay, glad you're okay, EJ. That's EJ Viso. Marty?
All right, thank you, Jamie. And word that a lot of the drivers are heading into the operations center here, and there's Tony Kanaan. Looks like Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Reay, as they make their way into there to have a discussion with IndyCar officials. We'll keep you posted if we hear anything coming out of that. There is Scott Dixon. He is also one of the 19 that was not involved in this crash. Now 54 minutes into a red flag situation here at the season finale of the IZOD IndyCar Series at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. A mood that is very concerned right now for the well-being of the driver, the number 77, Dan Wheldon, as he has been transported to University Medical Center. If you've just joined us, 15 total cars involved in the crash, and one of those guys that somehow made it through was Davey Hamilton. And Rick, you're going to talk to him, and boy, he knows what it's like to go through a very difficult crash.
Yeah, Davey had a great view for this one, but you were able to get out of it. Explain what you saw and how you got away.
Well, you know, fortunately, a little bit of bad luck ended up being good luck for that incident, and you know, we missed on our gears, and I'm 6th gear on the rev limiter the whole way around, and I didn't realize how fast this pace was going to be, and so we fell back a little bit, and you know, unfortunately, turned around, I seen some smoke, so I lifted a little bit, and then it went away, so I started to go again, and then mayhem happened, and all I could see was cars flying and going upside down. At that point, I just shot to the bottom as fast as I could, and almost got into the inside wall from hitting the transition on our warm-up lane. And at that point, you're still just trying to slow down and seeing parts. And you know, it's you know, without a doubt, the worst thing I've ever seen in you know, my racing career, honestly. It's sad, man. Sad.
In terms of this race, you were concerned about the number of extra drivers, one-time drivers coming into this.
Yeah, you know, at one point we were doing the, you know, somebody can come in and beat us guys for a $5 million bonus. You can't come in here and race with these guys and think you're going to beat them ever. You know, I'm a part-time guy now, and when I go to Indianapolis, I get practice. I get some weeks of practice, but the days of me even coming here with the experience I have in these cars and the knowledge I have with them to try to compete against these guys is very, very difficult, and our results show for it. These guys are tough. They're the best in the world, and you know, if you're gonna come in here and win and compete, you know, you need to do it all the time, and you can't bring guys that have never raced, especially Indy cars, to deal like that. But thank God that didn't happen, and that's not the cause of it.
Sometimes we lose sight of how dangerous racing is. You're somebody who's been through it, has been to the brink and come back. How hard is it to see what's going on here today and to think about how close you guys come to the edge?
You know, reality hit again. You know, it's been 10 years or so more, a little more than 10 years since my accident in Texas, and you know, we're a bunch of friends here. This is our family. This is what I love, and I was fortunate enough to come back, but these are sad days. As I try to tell everybody when I got hurt, whenever you put a helmet and a fire suit on, it's probably pretty dangerous, and we accept that as racing drivers, and we never hope to see this. And I think this track is so beautiful and so smooth and so banked and fast, and we're running speeds that we almost run at Indy, and it's really kind of easy to run in packs like that. But the cars are still moving around a lot, as you've seen, and somebody just makes one little mistake, or not even a mistake, the car just steps out a little bit, and that's what it causes. And it's scary. I mean, my friends are hurt back there, and we got to go back and do this again.
Does it make you question whether you'll come back and do this again?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does for sure. I mean, it's been a question mark a little bit anyways, just because, like I said, I'm not the full-time guy. With my leg injuries, I can't race the road courses anymore. I'm just not good enough on them with injuries that I have. But ovals, I still get it done, I felt, and I'm having a lot of fun. But, it's time for me to rethink, and I have some things up the pipe, do some team ownership maybe, and I got Hewlett Packard as a great partner and friends with me, and so we're gonna reevaluate. Indy's still out there, man. Like I told you, I get a lot of practice there. I feel comfortable there. That's the one you want to win, and so I'm not saying no, but like I say, when your friends get flown out and you don't know their condition, it makes you think twice for sure.
If ever there's a guy who knows the impact and what it can do to somebody's life, it's Davey Hamilton as a race car driver.
And Davey's big crash was June of 2001 back at Texas, and there were many of us that never thought he would drive again. Came back and actually competed again this year at Indy, qualified 15th, finished 24th in this year's Indianapolis 500. Let's catch up with one of the Rookie of the Year contenders, Vince.
With James Hinchcliffe, one of those that was right up front and with a bird's eye view of everything that was going on in regards to the accident. Did you see the initial contact at all?
The initial contact was with me. We were coming out of turn 4. I was side by side with Elio there, and Graham and Ryan were banging wheels for some reason on lap 11. And they got into each other and both had to lift, and Elio and I both had to lift, and that allowed Wade, who was a couple of car lengths behind me, to get a bit of a run, and we went down the front straight 3 wide. So I'm hearing 3 wide on my radio, and I'm just looking at Elio's tire, staying right on there and trying to give as much room high as I can. And I guess going into turn 1, Wade just got into my right rear tire with his front wing, and that's what kicked his car loose and then, made him spin out in front of everybody else. So an unfortunate situation, and sort of bred from guys driving, I think, beyond what we should be doing at this part of the race. So obviously everybody's thoughts just with Dan right now. Glad everybody else was okay. I mean, when we came around after the caution was thrown, I can't even describe to you what the scene looked like on the racetrack from our point of view. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before in my life.
I've heard several drivers, and in fact just about everyone that we've interviewed has talked about the fact that they were concerned before the race that this sort of thing was going to happen. Was it brought up in the drivers' meeting? Did anyone talk with Brian Barnhart about the concern, or maybe address it as a group as a whole from a driver's standpoint?
At the end of the day, I mean, the series isn't stupid. They know the situation. I mean, we could have all addressed our concerns to them, and I'm sure some people did privately one-on-one with Brian or whomever. But I mean, they've been around racing a long time. They know that 34 cars on a 1.5 mile track is something we've never done. And a lot of these people are doing either their first race or a couple races or the first race in a long time, and in this track in particular, just the nature of the racetrack, we can run so close to each other, not only side by side but also nose to tail through the corners, that when something goes wrong, there's zero margin and there's zero time to react. So a place like Kentucky, the cars move around a bit more, there's not as much grip, you're giving each other more room. This racetrack, we don't have to do it, and because we're all competitive people, we don't do it. And that's when you leads you to situations where if one little thing goes wrong, it can have very bad consequences.
How does what happened earlier here this afternoon affect you when you get back in the car to restart?
Well, I mean, even just having an accident like that, with that many cars being involved, I think is going to calm everybody down. Obviously, it's a whole new dimension knowing that, that Dan had to be flown out of here on a helicopter. So, again, we just hope he's fine. But I think everybody now appreciates a little bit better what can happen. And I certainly hope there's a lot more respect and just a lot more intelligence used out there.
Thanks, James. Marty?
All right, Vince, thanks so much. There's Will Power's pit area, and he, of course, was one of the cars involved in this crash, ending his hopes of winning the championship. But, Jamie, you're hearing more on Will's situation?
Yes, I watched him walk back and forth in and out of the infield medical center here multiple times. Well, I was just told by IndyCar that he was indeed taken to University Medical Center complaining of lower back pain. So, of course, he injured a little bit more than he thought he was initially. He gave me a thumbs up and said okay, but he too is now at the medical center. Marty?
All right, thanks for the update, Jamie. As this 15-car crash has truly taken a huge toll, not only on equipment, but on the drivers in the series. The most seriously injured at this point that we know of is Dan Weldon. He was airlifted to University Medical Center. We do not have any further information on his condition. As soon as we get that information, of course, we'll pass it along. It is now an hour and 4 minutes into this red flag. Back after this message from our ABC stations. Back here. Back here. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as our red flag situation continues. Michael Andretti talking to Dario Franchitti's wife as the repairs out on the track. They actually have some asphalt because of the cars that actually gouged the asphalt. They're trying to patch that work, and you can see some of the patchwork already. Let's check in while this work continues with Rick DeBrule. He's caught up with James Jakes.
And James Jakes had quite a view of all this. Let's start off by talking about what you saw as you were coming around.
We were going into one, and the guys were running 3 and 4 wide, heading in there probably three or four rows in front of me, and there was a lot of moving around. People were checking up massively. They weren't really holding their line, and I saw quite a lot of sparks in front, and then I saw a car hit the outside of turn 2 where I went in the first day, and I backed out then and just, I guess, saw everything. There was cars, a lot of debris. We slowed down immediately, the cars at the back, and I saw Will get in the air. He was quite high, hit the catch fence, and wow, I think there was 11 cars there. So we went immediately to the bottom and then just tried to pick our way through it.
Was it an evasive maneuver on your part that saved you in terms of, you see it and then have to make that split-second move to get out of the way, and how do you decide where to go?
No, I think the guys where we were, we saw it pretty early, so we were able to, part of the problem is I can imagine that the guys backed out of the throttle really aggressively, and then it was just everybody hit each other from behind, and we had the luxury of seeing it quite early. So the guys, we went to the bottom. I think it was me, Buddy Rice. Buddy actually got caught in another car. But yeah, we had a pretty good view of it, so we were able to slow down and control the guys behind us. That's half the problem. If you come out early, you get 10, 15 cars running up behind you. So we were okay. We managed to get low pretty fast and avoid it all.
You're a young guy, obviously, not a lot of ovals under your belt. We were just talking about this. How does this affect you?
It's tough. Obviously, we had a big crash in practice on Friday. Had a big fire, and we weren't able to. We've got Tony's spare car here, so it's been a tough weekend for us. I think you've just got to, it's part of the job. You accept that you're driving a race car, and it's what we love to do, and there's consequences, just like there is with anything. And yeah, I think you've just got to get on and do the best job you can, really.
Is it hard to go back out there and finish this race? Or is it just something you do?
No, I think it's not going to be easy. Yeah, that's for sure. It's going to be tough, and thoughts and prayers go out to all the families and people that were, injuries in the crash and stuff.
Thanks, James Jakes. Vince?
With team owner Michael Andretti, and Michael had 4 cars in the field, and all 4 unscathed through that incident, but you just came out of the operations trailer here. A group of drivers are inside, including your son Marco. What's the topic of discussion in there?
I think it's just wait and see what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I think they just want to know what's going to happen. When are they going to restart the race or whatever? So but right now, no answers. So I don't know.
As a driver, you never participated in a race of this nature, but the variety of the drivers that we've spoken to today talked about running too hard, too early, the wheel-to-wheel, etc. With your owner's hat on, but having been a driver, can you expect your drivers to back off?
No. I mean, when you put guys out there that are competitors, you can tell them don't pass, lay back. I mean, it just doesn't happen, and so you can't put the responsibility all on them. Yeah, they need to take care of themselves a little bit, but still, if you're going to put them in a situation like this, it's there's going to be carnage like this.
Various drivers have talked about the mental effect of having gone through an accident like this, and how difficult or not difficult it's going to be to get back in the car. What will you tell your drivers before this race resumes?
They're professionals, I mean, if they got to get back in and do it, they're going to go and do it, and they'll stay focused on their job at hand. And so there's not really anything I need to tell them, because they're pros. They've been in these positions before, and you know, it's a dangerous sport we're in. Let's be real.
Thanks, Mike. Marty?
All right, Vince, as there you see Danica Patrick as her husband, Paul Hospenthal, and she appears to be very upset at this point. And we are still waiting more word, of course, from University Medical Center. There are 13 cars officially out of this race now, and 2 others have damage. Here are those that are officially listed as out. J.R. Hildebrand, Paul Tracy, Will Power, Jay Howard, Wade Cunningham, Alex Lloyd, Townsend Bell. The list continues with Pippa Mann, Buddy Rice, Thomas Schechter, E.J. Vizo, Dan Weldon, who we are having our deepest thoughts for right now, Charlie Kimball. The 2 that had damage and will probably be able to continue, Vitor Mir and James Jakes, had some slight damage. You heard in his interview he seems to be okay. Now, Jamie Little is on her way over to University Medical Center so to give us further updates from the scene where both Dan Weldon was transported by air, and we found out later that Will Power has been taken for further observation. Stay with us. We'll come back to Las Vegas.
This year, I was selected as a hometown hero to come down here and represent the National Guard, and it's just been a great experience, an incredible pleasure.
It's kind of a dream come true, you know what I mean?
The line is much longer for the hero than it is for the drivers.
If you get 15 seconds of fame, this is the best place to have it.
The commitment that they make is so much far superior than anything we could ever do to honor them.
This week's Hometown Hero.
What we created here, what we achieved here, what we learned here, and what we pioneered here, all goes here. The One, the Accord, smarter thinking from Honda.
For 125 years, Sunoco's been propelling people forward to their destinations and to their victories. And as of 2011, we'll do the same for some of the world's greatest drivers as we become an official fuel partner of IndyCar. We'll fuel their victories the same way we've been fueling yours. Because winning is the greatest feeling in the world.
For life's biggest questions.
What do you get a kid turning 13 that says, I'm a man?
There are answers.
In my journal.
And then there are manswers.
How about a couple of hookers?
ABC's Man Up premieres after Last Man Standing Tuesday on ABC.
Almost an hour and 10 minutes into this red flag situation here at the season finale of the IZOD IndyCar Series, as 15 cars in a multiple crash on lap number 12 if you're just tuning in. The most seriously injured is Dan Weldon. He has been transported by air to University Medical Center here in Las Vegas. Will Power, we can tell you, also was driven to the hospital complaining of back pain. And as of right now, if you were following the championship chase, you know that means it is over for Will Power's hopes, and Dario Franchitti is going to win the championship. But nobody's celebrating right now because there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And Rick, what's going on down there that you can tell us?
Well, you can see Takuma Sato on his scooter heading off. We were just about to interview Takuma Sato, and they came to him and they said that they've called a driver's meeting. All the drivers now heading into the back. I just saw Sebastian Saavedra going back as well. So once again, all the drivers who have been out here have now been called in a driver's meeting. Now, hopefully, that driver's meeting is simply to tell them what it's going to be for the restart procedure and a reminder as to what it's going to be for the rest of the race. But once again, all the drivers have now been called off pit road back into a driver's meeting. We'll try to let you know what we learned from that as soon as we can.
All right, thank you. That's Oriol Servia and Ed Carpenter on the right-hand side, along with Sarah Fisher. Sarah, of course, picking up her first win as a car owner just 2 weeks ago at Kentucky, as they two are making their way towards the drivers' meeting.
So we have drivers leading their pit stops and
So we'll try and get more information on what is going to be discussed in that drivers' meeting as this red flag situation continues. That's Graham Rahal in the foreground there. Stay with us here at Las Vegas.
And all we can take
Our red flag situation here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the Eyes Out IndyCar Series is now an hour and 15 minutes roughly, and we are still waiting official word on the condition of Dan Wheldon. We had a 15-car crash, if you're just tuning in, on lap number 12, and several cars got into the catch fence. We'll show you one angle from high above, and you'll see exactly what happens.
Cars, just as soon as they touch, we end up having a situation where the one car starts to get out of kilter, Eddie, gets collected by another, and a chain reaction that continues. And as we discussed before, at these speeds at over 220 miles an hour, we really are just a passenger.
You're a passenger, and really how you deal in that accident is just a question of reflex. Once these things start, it's just an accumulative effect of cars and pieces, gearboxes, and whatever being bounced around the track. And there's nothing you can do. You just have to ride it out and hope you're in the right place, and many of these drivers, unfortunately, were not.
And multiple cars got into the air, including Dan Wheldon's car right there, as you see, as it goes into the catch fence as well. And it's just unbelievable carnage. Every driver that we have talked to said they have never seen a zone like that in their lives, where they had to drive through, and how much debris there really was scattered across the track, along with two guys who have been through this. I mean, you've broken your back twice. I mean, there's nothing more devastating. We talk about it, and we almost from time to time get used to the fact that we're running fast, we hit the wall, and everybody walks away.
And because these cars have become so safe over the years, the tracks have become safer. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy Racing League really developed the safer barrier that's now in use here at this particular track, at all tracks around North America and the world, for that fact, used at all NASCAR tracks. But, you know, we get this reminder every once in a while about how fast we are going, 220 miles an hour, the length of a football field in less than a second. And Eddie, you said it, that, you know, it's a reactionary thing, that when this type of thing happens in front of you, you hope you've made the right decision. But there's sometimes no decisions to be made. For a lot of drivers today, they were just in a place where there was no option for them, Eddie.
But they have packaged a lot of cars together here at this race. This is one of those racetracks where we had some great interviews, unfortunately, in the last hour, where all the drivers have given their perspective. We put a lot of race cars on a racetrack that is too easy to drive flat. Flat means you never take your foot off the throttle. And when things happen here, it's a multiple. It just keeps going faster and faster and faster and faster. And you have a car that's spun, stopped in the middle of the track, and you have 15 of them arriving at 20 miles an hour. There is nothing you can do, and all that energy has to go someplace.
And it does, but, you know, when I'm listening to you, this is us talking now because we're retired, you know, and we're analysts. But when we were driving, I mean, we chose to get inside those cars. I mean, that's what we did for a living. We wanted to get in there. We wanted to go fast. We wanted to beat the other car. We choose to get inside those cars. We know that the consequences might be dire. And you've had accidents. I've had accidents. But in this situation here, we're just hoping and praying for Dan Wheldon, Marty.
Let me ask both of you. When was it the first time you realized it was everybody else but me, and then all of a sudden it was you?
I think probably for me it was Brazil, the first time I broke my back. You know, we talked, and you talked a little bit earlier about how the cars crash and they dissipate the energy because they're really crumple zones. And we saw that a lot with today with a lot of the cars, and a lot of the guys stepped out of the cars and walked away. My first accident when I broke my back, I thought it was a small accident. The car went around on me. We had a problem with the rear wing, went into the back of the car went into the wall at 185 miles an hour. And your mind's working so fast, I'm going backwards. We're in Brazil, and I'm worrying, do we have the parts here to fix the car? And then the impact with the wall, I knew it was serious. Then all of a sudden, you know, you have the injury. And it's those types of things that drivers think about until the injury comes. And as we get a little bit older, you start to think a little bit more about it. And I always felt that. And then, you know, responsibilities come with families. And that's the sort of scenario where you start to say, you know, maybe this is dangerous. But as a young driver, you don't think about that.
There is not a racing series in the world that is as fast and is, I hate to say this, but as potentially dangerous as IndyCar racing at these speeds on these big banked ovals.
I agree.
That's a fact.
And
it's also a fact that all these drivers have made the decision to race, and there's a whole line of them that want to get inside to race.
And that was us a few years ago.
Having said that, I think it's very important that when you put these drivers in this position to be racing, you always contemplate what the possible consequences are. You cannot put all the responsibility on the drivers because somebody got sideways, somebody was high, somebody was low. That's irrelevant. When you put them in an arena like that and you tell them, go race, and there's going to be a winner at the end of the day, and it can make or break somebody's career, it is That decision is already made months and months beforehand with how many cars you're going to allow on the track, what the configurations of the car are going to be. Those are things that are done before you get to the racetrack. So I think it's very wrong, and I'm sure this will not happen today, to lay the blame on a specific driver that did something that was wrong. It's a question of how did we get here?
Let's show you the cars that were involved. We have 13 that are listed now as out of this race. The list includes Hildebrand, Tracy, Willpower, Vitor Mira. Mira's not out of the race. Neither is James Jakes. The others are listed as out. This is the 15 that are involved in the total crash. Here's page 2. It's a long list. Through Townsend Bell, Pippa Mann, Buddy Rice, Thomas Schechter, E.J. Vizo, Dan Weldon, Charlie Kimball. And of course, it is Dan Weldon's condition that we are most worried about at this moment. He was airlifted out of here. We have no further word at this time. We've sent Jamie Little over to University Medical Center so that she can give us direct reports as soon as they become available. Now, the drivers have been summoned to a meeting inside the Media Center building, which is on the infield portion of the track. Now, we are not privy to be inside and hear what's going on in that meeting, but as soon as something comes out of that meeting, we will, of course, pass it along to you. We'll take a break here at Las Vegas. Our red flag situation is now 1 hour and 27 minutes in length here and still going at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway at the season finale of the IZOD IndyCar Series after a 15-car pileup. And as we said before the break, the drivers were summoned to the Media Center. This was the group that originally had gone into the Operations Center to discuss things with IndyCar officials. There's Dario Franchitti and his team owner, Chip Ganassi. And then just from there, they went directly, along with the other drivers. There's Tony Kanaan. He was in that meeting as well. You see Mario Andretti back there. There's Justin Wilson, and he was injured in a crash back at Mid-Ohio. That's why he is not racing here today, as he was replaced by Townsend Bell, and Townsend was involved in the crash and is out of this race. We can tell you Vitor Mira's car has sustained enough damage that it too now is listed as out of the race. That brings the list to 14 officially out. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where our red flag situation is now 1 hour and 30 minutes in length after a 15-car crash with multiple injuries, and the most severe being to Dan Weldon, and we are still awaiting word. There is the safety crew that has been working not only on the safer barriers, but the catch fence, it was the catch fence that really did most of the damage as several cars got up into the fence. And then they are also having to patch areas of the track that were literally gouged by the cars going end over end and literally digging into the asphalt. So that is what is going on the track. Now, what we can tell you, there's one of the patches that they've already completed. What we can also tell you is that there is a meeting right now being held with the drivers in the Media Center. Our cameras are not privy to that meeting. We are waiting to see exactly what comes out of that meeting, and we're not going to speculate on anything as far as what is going to happen as far as the rest of the race and when or if we will restart. We've talked about it so much. 34 cars started this race. We now have 14 that are officially out. Vitor Mira's car was just added. 15 actually involved in the crash. And just an unbelievable scene that every driver that went through it described for us.
And these are things that we've talked about before as we look at Danica's father there on the left in the red shirt, and Paul Hosmenthal, which is Danica's husband, there on the right. And as we mentioned, Danica's inside with the drivers meeting right now. But Marty, as we mentioned before, drivers know the possibility of injury or worse when we get involved in race cars, and it's something that we love to do. We always do it. When you're younger, you maybe don't think about it, as we just mentioned a moment ago, but in somber times like this, it's a hit for reality. It's a hit home, Eddie, that shows you how dangerous the business is that we have chosen.
It is, and you're right, everybody acknowledges that, but that doesn't mean that you cannot correct situations so they don't occur. When history repeats itself, the price is always double the second time.
Well, all I know is that right now everybody's thoughts are with Dan Weldon at University Medical Center, and we are still waiting for word. Jamie Little has headed over to the medical center to give us a direct report as soon as news becomes available. Stay with us. An hour and 35 minutes ago, we were celebrating. We were just starting the last race of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series with a championship at stake. And then a 15-car crash literally took the wind out of all of our sails. And right now, we are just waiting word from both IndyCar officials and from University Medical Center on the condition of Dan Wheldon, who just 5 months ago won the Indianapolis 500 in stunning fashion when young J.R. Hildebrand crashed on the final corner of the final lap. And Dan Wheldon, who 5 laps earlier was as far back as 5th, but had managed to find his way to victory lane and a $2.5 million payday. Today, Dan was going for $5 million, of which he would share, half of it going to a lucky fan if he could come from 34th position to the front of the field and win the race. He had already picked up 10 spots by lap number 12. And then just pure carnage erupted as 15 cars, several of them, getting into the catch fence, including Dan's. And then this is where we're at, holding our breath, thinking good thoughts, hoping for the best. And when we have information available from the hospital, Jamie Little has arrived at University Medical Center. She'll report in as soon as she has something, and we're still waiting for the drivers' meeting that has been called by IndyCar officials to complete. And there is Brian Barnhart, as he is the man in charge of what happens on the track here at the IndyCar Series. He is heading to that meeting with the drivers. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, you can see Targa Chip Ganassi Racing team members getting together for prayer as everyone is waiting to hear on the condition of Dan Wheldon, as he was the most severely injured. Several others have been taken for observation and care, such as Will Power. We know he was transported as well, but he was taken by car. Will, of course, was flown out of here. And the whole mood, as we mentioned just before, was supposed to be a day of celebration, a day of championship crowning, a Rookie of the Year to be crowned. And instead, the thousands of fans that have come out are all wondering, like we are, with you at home, what has happened to Dan Wheldon, and is he going to be okay, as we are thinking our best thoughts and waiting for word from the hospital.
You know, this sport was mentioned many times as we've been talking here, Marty. It's something that we love to do, and we know it has the highest highs and the lowest lows. And when you've been involved in accidents, as we've talked to many drivers here today that understand this, including Davey Hamilton, you know that there could be an incident where you miss races and you end up spending time in a hospital, and I've done it myself a couple of times, but your focus is getting well and coming back. We saw that also with Kenny Brack when he had his horrific accident at Texas quite a few years ago and came back and did a great job, and that's what you hope for, and that's what you pray for, and that's what everybody right now is concerned about Dan Wheldon, to hopefully give him hope and an opportunity to maybe come back.
It is something that you can never get used to seeing. No matter how many times you go to racetracks, and waiting for these moments makes it very difficult.
I know this is difficult for you, Eddie. You only do 2 races a year with us, and this is the first time you've been in this kind of serious situation, and it's perfectly understandable. I mean, we talked about about a half an hour ago. We get complacent sometimes. We see everybody hit the wall and walk away, whether it's IndyCar, NASCAR, NHRA, but then there's days like this where it just smacks us right square in the eye, and it tells you, hey, this is still serious business. And you know, you just find yourself stepping back for a moment and saying, man, what could we have done better? And that's exactly what everybody will be doing from this moment forward. How do we make it better?
Well, when you talk about better, Marty, the new car that's coming out next year, the 2012 car, has been all designed around improved safety. And Eddie, you know from driving in Formula One that back in those days, the cars were not all that safe. There was a lot of injuries for drivers from the frontal impact and losing their legs. I mean, the safer barrier was not out at that particular time, but over the decades, I mean, racing has become so much safer, and obviously, as you mentioned, there's incidences where you just can't control everything on the racetrack, whether it's the cars, the safer barrier, or the catch fencing. And in this situation here, we think that's the catch fencing that has really caused a lot of destruction to the cars today. But over time, things have become much safer, and when I mentioned the 2012 car, the bodywork is much different on that. It actually has a rear valance around it, call it a bumper if you will, that we hope will stop cars from hitting the back of cars in front and launching in the air, which we saw here today. It's been something that the team here, the designers with the league and the car designers have worked hard on to try to improve it. And as you can see, the cars that we look at right now, there is nothing really around the back area. 2012 cars will be different, and some safer devices on them, wrapped around them, and everybody's looking forward to that car.
Safety is always in progress. I think it's not one of those subjects where you can just close the book and say, well, we've done it right, now racing is no longer dangerous. Whenever you get cars racing around tracks at above 200 miles an hour, that's what happens. But I know it's very cliche, but race car drivers are a breed apart. They always acknowledge what they're going into, and they turn it into a very competitive spirit. There's always that push that is telling you to go not to the limit, but past the limit. And that's what really compelled me to want to be a race car driver, because I wanted to spend time on the limit. But
and that's the natural high. When you talk about that, that is the natural high that we receive when we drive a race car. And when we talk about the safety aspects of these cars, things have really improved. We talked about the Hans device. You know, we had a lot of problems with our head injuries and neck injuries. The Hans device now has been implemented. It's something that goes around the helmet and over the shoulders and helps drivers on frontal impact. It's something that's been involved in this sport here and transferred over to NASCAR. And Marty, as you know, I mean, safety is what this league is all about. And I tell people all the time, I would rather crash in a race car at 200 miles an hour than a road car at 60, because the cars are safer, and the most important thing is that the safety people are there within 30 seconds to help you.
All right. No new information to give you at this point. The meeting with the drivers is still going in that building with Brian Barnhart and IndyCar officials. As soon as that meeting breaks up, we will talk to those involved and get the latest information here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as our red flag situation continues. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where our red flag situation continues after a 15-car crash at the 12th lap of the scheduled 200, and we have been at a standstill since. And our focus of attention that originally started on just being able to identify the 15 cars and driver combinations that had been involved has now focused more on the well-being primarily of Dan Weldon. He was airlifted out of here to University Medical Center a while back. We have Jamie Little over at the hospital standing by for any updated information that she will be able to pass along to us. At this moment, there is a meeting going on between the drivers and IndyCar officials in the media center. And guys, this is just, everybody's on pins and needles waiting.
You can tell by looking at all of the team members how everybody is focused. Everybody has one thing in their mind. They all want to know how Dan is, and racing really goes to the side, isn't it, right now? We're all just focused on that. I don't think any driver that is sitting on that pit wall right now with their cars ready to go is really thinking about the race until they know how Dan is.
Exactly, and we've all been in situations. I can think of Elkhart Lake back in the 90s when A.J. Foyt crashed, and Eddie, you were there. We sat there in the front stretch for a long period of time, and when they actually were taking care of the situation with A.J. Foyt in the early 90s, and in that scenario, you know, you were sitting in the car, you were waiting, and then when you are told it's time to go again, I'm not sure how we do it, but you put the visor down and you compartmentize what was going on. You go back and do your job, and then when you get out of the car, then you deal with it again. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen with the guys here today, Marty.
Well, there's Bev Patrick and TJ Patrick talking there with a member of the Peak staff, and of course they're the parents of Danica Patrick. We saw her being emotional right before going into that meeting that the drivers are currently in, and of course there is her number 7. For Dan, his wife, that we were told, has been over at the hospital as well, wife Susie, and their baby boy Sebastian. There is the scene outside the meeting room where the drivers are conferring with IndyCar officials and waiting for that meeting to break up. For Dan, today is 134th career start, of course, a 2-time Indianapolis 500 winner, and really the win back in May set up this possibility as IndyCar head man Randy Bernard came up with the idea, saying, hey, let's get a $5 million bonus. If Dan can start at the back of the field, come all the way through and win, half of it goes to Dan and half will go to a lucky fan. And Dan started 34th, and by lap 12 he had picked up 10 spots, and that is when the crash occurred. And we have been literally stopped from that moment until now. And all of our attention has been focused now on Dan's condition.
Well, you know, and Dan is always active, guys. He is racing go-karts throughout the season, and I'm at the kart track all the time myself, and you see Dan there. I mean, he loves motor racing. He's just absolutely great aboard a go-kart, and we all started in go-karts, Eddie, and anytime that Dan's not in IndyCar, he's been racing other things. Was off to Australia after this event to do some racing down there, and in the touring car sedan series that's so very popular, and his goal was just to keep on driving and close to a deal for next year. So our thoughts and prayers are for his recovery, that he has the ability to drive again.
And of course he was doing the testing on the new 2012 car.
He did all the he's done all the preparation for that. So the car that we saw run the other day, he had been running. Dan is not one of those persons that you ask a question about racing and you expect you're going to get two answers. He's just so enthusiastic about everything. And I've watched his win at the Indy 500 over and over and over again. Just imagine how much hard work went into that to put himself in that position to win that race, and to see him afterwards when he got that cup and the milk, and he was just enthusiasm bubbling everywhere. So we're all sitting here.
You know, and he's a guy that went through the European Series. I mean, he did all the Formula stuff that we've all done, and we've enjoyed it. And the Formula Fords, the Vauxhall Series, and we talked about the karting itself, and started off the IndyCar stuff with Panther Racing. And a talented race driver, understands the marketing and the PR side of it, and certainly has created a brand for himself. And a driver overall that is one of the fan favorites. And you know, if you ask him a question, like you mentioned, he lights up because he loves the sport.
In 2005, I remember the T-shirt he had made up. Remember, he won the Indianapolis 500, but that's the year Danica led, and she got all the publicity coming out of the race, and he had a T-shirt made up for the next week at the next race saying, hey, I won the Indy 500. And of course he went on that year to win the 2005 championship. And right now we are still waiting as long as we can. We're going to stay here to find out. You'll know when we know exactly the news involving Dan Wheldon and what's going to happen with today's race. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where we are getting close to 2 hours in a red flag situation after a 15-car pileup here in the season finale of the IZOD IndyCar Series. Involved in the crash, and our most attention has been focused on Dan Wheldon as he was airlifted to University Medical Center. And basically that is what is going on all around the racetrack. Fans, crew members, everybody just sitting, standing, praying, waiting to find out what Dan's condition is, and also what is the future of this race today. Now, of course, Dan was in this race to potentially win $5 million, as he had to start dead last in the field after winning this year's Indianapolis 500. And if he came through the field, he would get $2.5 million for winning, and a lucky fan would have gotten $2.5 million as well. Of course, also our focus today was on the championship. That has been decided because Will Power was one of the cars involved in that 15-car crash. He is over at the University Medical Center. He was driven over there after complaining of some back pain, and but his championship hopes are over. But Dario Franchitti and the Target Ganassi crew are not celebrating at this moment, nor is anyone else, as we're all just waiting for word on how Dan Wheldon, the 2005 champion and the two-time Indy 500 winner, is doing over at the hospital. You know, we were talking about his career, and let's go back to 2006, because remember his battle with Sam Hornish Jr.? I mean, it was settled by the tiebreaker. Hornish won it on a tiebreaker. That's how close that championship battle was. Our battle today was 18 points coming in to the race.
Always a driver that drove on the edge and just loves the speed of it. I remember talking to him so many times about how he can drive a car loose compared to other drivers. That's when the back end of the car wants to come around on you, and basically that's what makes it fast on an oval, whether it's a high-speed oval like this or especially the short ovals. And a very fast driver, and anything that he drives, we just mentioned about the karts and all the Formula cars that he goes through. And when a driver has that ability, he works his way up the ladder, Eddie, very, very quickly, and essentially that's what Dan did.
And to come over here from England, you have to, fight hard for that.
That's Ashley Judd, and of course Dario Franchitti's wife. And consoling one of the team members from Dan Weldon's camp and Sam Schmidt Racing. Sam Schmidt, could have been a big day for him. He got his very first IndyCar Series win as a driver here back in 1999. That's the farthest thing from his thought and ours as we keep praying for Dan. Back here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as the red flag condition is now 1 hour and 58 minutes officially in progress, as we are still waiting for news on Dan Weldon's situation and the future of this race. That is the garage area back in the area where Dan Weldon's team was doing all their pre-race preparation. And of course, a 15-car crash that brought this race to a standstill after lap number 12. And here come the drivers out of a meeting that has been going on for the better part of the last 25 minutes. And I guess we have been told that none of the drivers will be giving interviews at this particular moment. I guess IndyCar officials will want to make the first statement as to what is going to happen next as everyone comes out of this meeting room. There is Tony Kanaan, who started on pole today, led the first 12 laps, and was nowhere near the crash when it happened behind him.
At this time, they've also been repairing the track, Marty, repairing the safer barrier, repairing the track that we saw just a little bit earlier on, and also repairing the catch fence.
Michael Andretti, he was in that meeting as well, as he will make it back to his area. And of course, we are waiting for word from IndyCar officials as to Dan's status and the status of this race that is now just shy. In fact, we're approaching 2 hours in this red flag situation.
As we talked about before, guys, this is the hardest moment for the drivers, and if you are told it's time to get back into the car, it is a difficult situation.
I think you get an idea just looking at Tony Kanaan. I mean, this guy is as tough as nails, and you just saw the big exhale that he just gave. This is those moments that you just pray and hope for the best, and we don't know what they know because we have not been given any word from IndyCar officials. Graham Rahal, and he's just starting out his young career. Rahal has several second place finishes. Of course, he won his very first IndyCar race back at St. Petersburg, and that's the farthest thing from his mind today. And there is your four-time champion, but I guarantee you right now he does not want to celebrate anything. He, like everyone else, most concerned about the well-being of Dan Weldon. And there is his teammate Scott Dixon, and of course Dan drove for Chip Ganassi with Scott Dixon.
With Dixon. So there's a lot of drivers there that have a lot of personal relationships with him that they raced with. And
Dan drove with Dario when they were at Andretti.
And won.
Yes.
And won at Indy.
Very difficult to be involved in this sport and over a period of time like Dan has, and not to have great relationships with a lot of drivers. And we focused a lot on the off-track situations that a lot of drivers have had this year, guys, especially between Dario and Will, just with situations they get involved on track. It carries off track, but in this situation here, everybody's your friend, and we are praying and hoping the best for Dan Weldon. And all those things about championships and races that you've had in the past are just completely gone now.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, as he makes his way back, he was our winner back at Loudon. You saw that race here on ABC. Of course, that had a controversial finish to it after the restart in the rain. Eventually ended up getting wiped out, and he won that race there. I talked to him yesterday, and he had mentioned the fact that this is going to get crazy because we could go 3 and 4 wide, and if there's one minor blip, it could really be serious, and it turned out to be prophetic as we had a 15-car pileup on lap number 12.
One of the most difficult things, I think, at a race weekend like this is for the partners of the race car drivers, their wives and girlfriends and family, because you're always on pins and needles, and you can tell that everybody right now is waiting with great anxiety.
I think anxiety is the proper word for it, especially for all of us. Obviously, there's Tim Cindric talking to Helio Castroneves and his team as they're going through the next steps that they have been told by IndyCar officials. And there is Tony, and
very distressed.
And Tony just is a great friend of Dan, and they hang out together, has always hung out together, and when they separated from being on the same team, have remained friends over the years, and just a true friendship. There you see Roger Penske, obviously, and Roger is there with his team, and we're conferring with his guys, and all the information that they know from being involved in that meeting so far, Eddie, we're not privy to that, but obviously they're passing along and discussing what they have learned inside that meeting, and we still hope and pray for Dan Wheldon. As we mentioned before, in that big accident, he was airlifted out of the racetrack here to the hospital, and overall a lot of drivers involved in that accident, but obviously the worst injuries so far to date seem to be Dan Wheldon, Marty.
Yeah, and Wheldon, as you can see,
Vassar.
Yeah, that's Jimmy Vassar, team owner, co-owner of KV Racing. At the hospital, Jamie Little has passed along that Dan's sister Holly is there. His brothers Austin, Ashley, and Elliot are there. His wife Susie and their two children, Sebastian and Oliver, are there as well. No further information coming from the hospital yet from Jamie Little. As soon as we do get word either there or here, we'll pass it along. And there is the captain, Roger Penske, talking it over with his team.
You know, and Roger has been involved with the sport so many years, Eddie, as you know, and all through the decades that we had when injuries were very strong, not only injuries but deaths. And I think of Mark Donohue, who drove for him and was killed. It's a difficult situation, but we're all in this as a family because we love the sport.
A very big family, and there is absolutely nothing that can prepare you for moments like this.
All right, we are getting word that there's Randy Bernard.
Our thoughts and prayers are with his family today. IndyCar, its drivers and team owners, has decided to end the race. In honor of Dan Wheldon, the drivers have decided to do a 5-lap salute in his honor. It will take place in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you.
There'll be no one-on-one interviews or questions. Thank you.
Did he confirm he's... All right, we came in late on that, and folks, this is the hardest part of our job, and the last time I had to do this was 2006 with Paul Dana, but we have lost Dan Wheldon today here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. A tragic accident on lap number 13, and Dan Wheldon killed today here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. There'll be a 5-lap salute. Stay with us, please. What started out as an exciting day here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway has ended in tragedy. The news has just been released that Dan Wheldon has been killed in a crash on lap number 13 of this race, in the final race of the 2011 season. You heard the tail end of an announcement by Randy Bernard, the head man at the league here, that the drivers and team officials and owners have gotten together, and the race will not be finished. The drivers will do a 5-lap tribute salute, and that should take place in a matter of minutes. But the air of excitement that started this day is completely gone, as we have lost Dan Wheldon. And there's Marco Andretti, as his former teammate, killed in this tragic 15-car crash at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And we mentioned the tribute lap. All the drivers, they'll be getting back into their cars. There'll be 5 laps in length as soon as they get everybody together. And as I mentioned before, this is the hardest part for us. The last time we had to do this was March of 2006 down at Homestead, when Paul Dano was killed in practice the morning of the race there. And unfortunately, over the years, it has happened too many times. Tony Rennan at Indy in a private practice. Greg Moore in 1999 at the season finale in Fontana. 99 in September, Gonzalo Rodriguez at practice during the race at Laguna Seca. Scott Brayton, of course, in 1996, practicing after he had won the pole for the Indianapolis 500. There is also the fact that Dan, who won the second time at Indy this year, he's not the first to have his life ended later in the season. In 1920, Gaston Chevrolet. He was killed later in November at a race in Beverly Hills. In 1929, Ray Keech won the race, and then June, he was killed at Altoona. In 1946, George Robson, and he later was killed at a race in Atlanta.
You see all the drivers now, they're going to do that 5-lap tribute, as you mentioned, Marty, and it'll be one of the most emotional laps, 5 laps that they've ever done in their life, Eddie, simply from the fact that they are going out there not to compete, but to give a tribute to a dear friend and colleague that has been killed today. And you're not putting your helmet on and your visor down and going into race mode. You're going out there for a tribute, and there's no doubt there will be tears shed behind the visor of all the drivers that are out there.
Chip Ganassi talking there, and the man on the right is Don the Snake Prudhomme, the legendary drag racer. He is a huge IndyCar fan, and he's seen too much of this in his lifetime as well. Let's take you back. If you're just tuning in, we're going to take you back and give you the full, complete version of Randy Bernard's official announcement just a few minutes ago.
IndyCar is very sad to announce that Dan Wheldon has passed away from unsurvivable injury.
Okay, and obviously you heard Rick DeBrule. He was trying to get us to get down there quickly to get the announcement of the official position of the league, and we did catch the tail end of it where they had said that this race will not continue and the drivers will do a 5-lap tribute. There's Sarah Fisher. Just 2 weeks ago, she was on top of the world. Ed Carpenter had just given her first victory as a team owner, winning over Dario Franchitti by so close a margin. And how quickly everyone's emotions and feelings change as here we are 2 weeks later, and as we said, we were going to celebrate not only a championship, but a Rookie of the Year championship, Danica's farewell, and maybe Dan winning $5 million if he could have won this race.
And as we watch this, Marty, we've said this before, this sport is a natural high when you drive. It gives you the highest highs, but it also has the lowest lows. And you don't understand that until you're involved in this sport. And as we see Dario Franchitti here, I mean, it pulls your gut out in this scenario. And overall, it's going to be a case where all the drivers are going to remember this, and it's tough. It's the last race of the year, Eddie, and it's something that they'll carry forward.
I think it really is a beautiful statement to his life that they're going to do that now. They're going out now, and they're going to run those 5 laps.
And as we see Tony Kanaan, who probably knew Dan best as far as all the drivers were concerned, got in his car early and was just sitting there and contemplating, and as I mentioned, tears probably just coming down. It will be emotions that how can you contain them?
Racing has lost a great champion, not just IndyCar, but an incredible driver with an amazing record at the Indy 500, but an enthusiasm for the sport that was very difficult to find.
Just saw Elio Castroneves there. I heard him doing an interview earlier this weekend. As you look at Oriol Survey, there's Elio, and he said it's never the fear of being on the track. He said, my fear is not having a ride. He said, I love this so much. I just don't ever want to lose that ride.
And that's why drivers put their foot on the gas. They don't lift. And you talk about the racing that we have here and how crazy it is at the very beginning of it, but as race drivers, you drive as hard as you can, whether it's the first few laps, the middle laps, or the last few laps, and that's what we are instilled to do. And it starts off when you start very young, Eddie, as you and I have discussed, and it goes through all the different formulas that you race at, and you want to compete, you want to win, and you're not just like that on the racetrack. You're a competitor, and everything that you do, you want to do it better than the other person.
Guys, I want to let everybody at home know, obviously, this crash has aired probably on every news outlet already across the board. And yes, it is a tragic situation and a day. I want to give you the opportunity at home. If you do not want to see this crash again, go ahead and turn away. We're going to go through it one more time because it really is not the safer barrier, but it's the catch fence that does so much damage in this to not just Dan's car, but to so many of the others. And this is in slow motion from high above.
Now all the drivers are very crowded going into this corner, 3 abreast. One of them touches, goes sideways, Scott, and then mayhem.
And this is what we talked about before, that these speeds at 220 miles an hour, Eddie, you're going the length of a football field in less than a second, and you don't plan your next move at this speed. As you can now see, the cars starting to go one over each other, and they'll start to get up towards the catch fence, and those are the ones, the catch fences, that do the damage. The safer walls we've improved really helps dissipate the energy when the cars hit, but it's the catch fencing that's above the safer barriers that these cars got up into, and that is what has done the damage.
Another angle, and it's the second airborne car in your screen.
And as you mentioned, Eddie, cars just going for the same spot, and at this speed it just starts to go sideways. Cars start to climb up and over, and as further cars continue to come into frame, you'll see cars starting to slide through and jump into the air, and now watch towards the catch fence, and the car now goes up, it's airborne, and it gets
the wrong way,
catapulted, and it gets into the catch fencing with the cockpit area first, which is something that you just cannot be prepared for.
And there's nothing you can actually do. There's nothing you can do. The drivers are put into positions, nothing they can do. Here it's in slow motion, but you can see how it arrives.
And the parts are going everywhere, and as a driver, you're trying to miss the large pieces, the cars themselves, and parts are falling out of the sky. You really don't know where to go or what to do, and if you escape this and you get through it, you sort of pinch yourself when you're on the far side of it and said, I made it. And unfortunately, some did not.
Last angle on this that we will show you, as
it's very painful to watch.
It is. It's heart-wrenching. You know these people as competitors, as sometimes they're angry with what you say about them on the air, but trust me, when
there's
these moments, there it is right there, and that's the the impact you were talking about, Scott. Cockpit towards the catch fence. Another view from Danica's car, as she was one of the 19 that managed to make it through.
She's on the lower part of the track, which was a good position to be in, but she has a bird's eye view of everything from here.
And as we heard her say earlier in this telecast, that she thought things were just getting a little bit crazy. She had eased off the throttle, not something that race car drivers do, but she just felt uncomfortable, had something about it, a sixth sense, if you will, and turned around and just gave herself a little bit more breathing space, which is something that worked out very well for her.
Charlie Kimball's view, he was in the middle lane, had nowhere to go.
And a car went right over the top of him.
And there's another car flying over the top.
And literally, I've been in these accidents. There's nothing you can do. Once it starts to happen, the momentum has to just play itself out.
The number 77, Dan Weldon's car number today, has now been put at the top of the scoring pylon here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And the tribute lap as the cars are beginning to form, as we salute Dan Weldon. Don't ever say race car drivers don't have emotions, that they feel nothing. That's Dario Franchitti.
Probably the last thing he wants to do right now is drive a race car.
This is a tough moment for everybody here, as Dan Weldon loses his life today in the series finale, as he was going for $5 million if he could have gone from 34th to 1st. His car number 77 sits atop the scoring pylon, and the 19 cars that are still able to make the laps are going to do a 5-lap tribute in Dan's honor here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Vince, you've got some details on what was in the drivers' meeting?
Well, I've been told by one of the drivers that in the drivers-only gathering, Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan broke the news to the group of drivers that Dan had passed away. There was discussion about whether or not they should continue the race. There were drivers on both sides of that fence. At that point, Randy Bernard came in and said that he understood it would be extremely difficult for them to make that decision at this time, considering what had just happened. and that he suggested they make a 3-wide formation and do the 5 laps in Dan's honor. And that was unanimously agreed upon by the drivers, that would be the fitting way to put an end to this day. I've just spoken with a member from Dan's team, and as all the cars are lining up to take this 5-lap honoring of Dan Wheldon, Dan's team will come out and stand on pit lane as well. Very, very emotional down here, as you might imagine.
And the fans are standing here in the grandstands at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as they are seeing everyone come out onto pit road. It's literally being lined by all the teams.
And something that we mentioned before, that this will be the most difficult 5 laps that any driver has ever done inside of a cockpit of a race car.
There is Dan's team as they are making their way out to pit lane. This move of canceling the race is not unprecedented. It happened in May of 1999 at Charlotte. 3 spectators were hit by flying debris and killed from a crash, and the race was halted. But here today, just 12 completed laps. Tragedy strikes in what was supposed to be a celebration of a great season, a great championship battle, a farewell to Danica Patrick as she moves on in her career. And little did we know how it would end up at this moment, with all of us stunned and just literally in some disbelief, because Dan Wheldon is not with us to celebrate this victorious day.
I think about all the work that Dan has done on the new 2012 car, that he was reporting back to all the drivers with great excitement as they anticipate the new car coming out for 2012. Ironically, a new, safer car, Marty.
Yeah, he was talking about how the sound of it, that turbo and everything was so cool. Let's go back, in case you're just tuning in again, to Randy Bernard's announcement of what was going to happen and how it happened.
IndyCar is very sad to announce that Dan Wheldon has passed away from unsurvivable injury. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family today. IndyCar, its drivers and team owners, has decided to end the race. In honor of Dan Wheldon, the drivers have decided to do a 5-lap salute in his honor. It will take place in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you.
And here we are on the track, everybody lined up along pit lane, and there is the field of 19 cars that survived that horrific crash and made it through for the 5-lap salute to Dan Wheldon. When they begin this 5 laps, folks, we're just going to sit back and reflect with you. So the 2011 Izod IndyCar Series comes to a close, but not the way that any of us had anticipated nor wanted. The championship has been won, but there's no celebration. A career has ended in one sport to move on to the next, but there is no happiness. And for all of us, it is just an emptiness as we have lost truly a great racer in Dan Wheldon. Jamie Little has been standing by at University Medical Center. 3 others were transported, J.R. Hildebrand, Pippa Mann, and Will Power. Jamie, can you give us an update from there?
I can't hear the booth. Jamie, go. Jamie, speak. University Medical Center right now in the trauma department, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of emotion here. Dan Wheldon's wife, Susie, their 2 little boys, his 3 brothers, and his sister were all by his side. Team owner Sam Schmidt is here. I've been told that Dan Wheldon's parents are at home in England. As for Susie, his wife, a plane is going to North Carolina to bring her family here to Las Vegas. And there's a lot of friends and family surrounding the outside trauma area at this time.
All right, Jamie, and obviously there's no more information available for J.R. Hildebrand, Pippa Mann, or Will Power, as they are still being treated over at University Medical Center. With this, we close out the season, Scott. Like I said, not the way we were anticipating at all.
Absolutely not, Marty. And I think of Dan Wheldon, just a superb person, a very, very fast race driver, somebody that I'm going to certainly miss, not only here at the IndyCar track, but saw him all the time at the kart track, and somebody that all the young drivers looked up to, Eddie.
And we'll continue to look up to an amazing human being with so much enthusiasm, and I'm at a total loss. I just can't believe what just happened.
He always had a smile on his face. In fact, he had actually done 3 television broadcasts with our Versus crew, the people that do the races when we're not on. And who knows, he may have had a career there. Many people ask me why I always sign off till we meet again. Because goodbye is always so final. Goodbye, Dan Wheldon.